The phone lines are open.
FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's 10 o'clock. Good morning on this Friday, March the 3rd. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, some sunshine and -8. Here's what's making news right now. Spring officially arrives in 2.5 weeks. But winter is showing us it is not done with us just yet. Environment Canada issuing a special weather statement for Ottawa and the Valley, the entire region. In fact, all of southern and eastern Ontario will feel this storm moving its way into our region later tonight. City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi has the details.
A quiet start to the day, but the light snow moving in later this afternoon and into the evening. And then by late tonight, we really have that steady snow. We're going to see anywhere from about 10 to 15 centimeters on average for Smiths Falls and Ottawa, and snowfall warnings have been issued. Our overnight low tonight, -3.
Motorists advised to be prepared for reduced visibility, hazardous driving conditions from rapidly accumulating snowfall this evening into tomorrow morning. City News Time, 10:01. The Ontario Nurses Association says contract talks with the Ontario Hospital Association have broken down. The two sides will now head to arbitration in early May. The Nurses Union and the hospitals began mediation on Wednesday. Now, the Nurses Association president, Bernie Robinson, was a guest on Wake Up with Rob Snow earlier this morning and said the process has been very frustrating and lays blame at the hospital's feet.
We have made our proposals known to the OHA. They have come back with mere cents. That is not going to solve this nursing crisis. We are looking for better staffing, better wages, and better care for patients.
Nurses and other healthcare workers, they held a massive rally and protest downtown yesterday demanding better staffing and wages. They'll continue with those rallies heading into this weekend. More money is needed to tackle homelessness in Ottawa, and the Ottawa Mission is telling the federal government it's time to step up. City News reporter Chris Curries has the details.
The City of Ottawa's budget just passed this week with just over $16 million dedicated to affordable housing. That's up from $15 last year. And while the Ottawa Mission would have preferred 20, they say it's all peanuts compared to what the feds should be bringing to the table.
We do need the federal government to continue on with the national housing strategy. When you're talking the big builds, some of these cities like the size of Ottawa needing at least 1,000 units to be built, and soon.
CEO Peter Tilley says Ottawa Community Housing has 12,000 people on their wait list right now, and for every 1 unit of affordable housing that gets built, they lose 7 year over year. Chris Curry, City News.
Ontario Liberals set to come together this weekend for their annual general meeting, with the impending leadership race set to dominate the agenda. Our Laura Carney reports.
This is expected to be the Ontario Liberal Party's largest AGM in 2 decades, with 1,500 people set to attend. The party looking to come up with a path forward following a second consecutive disastrous election result last June. Setting the stage for the leadership race will be among the top items discussed. 3 contenders who are openly considering a run are MP Nathaniel Erskine-Smith, MP and former Ontario Cabinet Minister Yasser Naqvi, and current provincial caucus member and former MP Ted Hsu. And one of the first orders of business for the new party executive selected this weekend will be to set the rules and timelines for that leadership race. Laura Carney, City News.
I'm Mark Day. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. How are you feeling today? I'm so happy that it's sunny out. Of course, it's not going to last very long. We've got that snow heading our way. We'll keep you up to date on any of the breaking news regarding what's expected from the skies. We wanted to have a fantastic show today with lots of different guests. You're going to have a chance to meet many people in our community. We're going to start today with Detective John Armit from the OPP. Hello, Detective.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
I have to tell you, the subject that we're about to talk about, which is fraud prevention, is so near and dear to my heart because we, unfortunately, in our network have seen people lose a lot of money to fraud. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart when I hear the stories that we cover here on City News about seniors losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So let's try and prevent some of this, okay, Detective, today?
Absolutely.
So give me a sense. You've dedicated this month. What's the objective? Obviously, for people not to fall victim to fraud, but are there tips and tricks that we can use to get against the fraudsters?
Absolutely. So I always tell people we can't arrest our way out of cybercrime. So we need the public, we need government, we need law enforcement all to work together. And the biggest tool that we have in our toolbox is fraud prevention. We say it's Fraud Prevention Month, but really fraud prevention needs to be every day. And we try and focus that with the OPP, with the Anti-Fraud Center, and with their policing partners. And this year's campaign, we're going to be focusing on the tricks of the trades of what's in the fraudster's toolbox. And everyone every day is getting hit with these phone calls, with these robocalls, with these text messages, with spam email, what have you. And so we're trying to educate the public on what they need to be worried about and how they can protect themselves.
And I think, people, we get so comfortable on our devices, right? And we think that everybody coming through our device is a friend, but sometimes it's foe.
Absolutely. And the fraudsters use technology to spoof everything. They're spoofing websites. Yesterday, we did a story with a woman lost $100,000 going to what she thought was a legitimate website. We're seeing spoof phone numbers using voice over internet protocol to mimic phone numbers of, legitimate organizations. And we have victims encouraged by fraudsters to download remote entry software, allowing access to their devices or computers. And then these annoying phishing texts that we're seeing with, did you miss out on a refund? Click on this link, and then they're asking for your personal information, and that's where the nightmare starts for identity fraud.
So, Detective, help us out a little bit. If it sort of in your gut feels wrong, would you say it probably is wrong?
Yeah, I agree. And, we as Canadians are very nice people. We want to give people the time of day. And I say, if you didn't ask for this, call to be made, it's normally suspicious. So feel free to hang up. Feel free to not to respond to that text. These are the things that fraudsters are using to try and bait you in. That's why we call it phishing. They get the hook into you and they just drag it out of you.
And let me ask you this, when we think about organizations like the CRA or our bank, I find more and more it's a little bit challenging to even get access to those things because I think those organizations are also worried. They're trying to protect us. So it can be kind of frustrating sometimes. I know I phoned CRA and to get a call back, there was a special code that the person calling back was going to say because, they're also wanting to protect themselves. And then the bank, I'm having to put in special codes. I'm having to say what my first car was and my grandfather's, middle name and all those kinds of things. And so it can kind of feel like, oh, my heavens. But at the end of the day, it's all about protection.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the staggering amount of losses that we've received at the Canadian Fraudster, I was there for 2 years. And when I started working during the pandemic, we saw our numbers jump. This year, our numbers jumped 40% from this time last year. So it's $530 million in losses reported to the Anti-Fraud Center. And we know that 75% of these fraud reports are cyber-enabled. So that means the suspects are using technology. And the staggering number is that only 5 to 10% of victims report their scams. So we're saying if you do believe you've been scammed or attempted scammed, contact your local police service and also the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. The Anti-Fraud Center has amazing resources on their webpage, and we look at different fraud pitches, and they'll lay out what the fraud pitch is and how to prevent yourself from getting victimized and what to do if you have been victimized.
And it just seems to be, as technology changes, it seems like they're getting more and more savvy. So an example I'll use is I had a friend, her husband had gotten a new cell phone. They were doing that transfer of data. He had received a message, clicked on it, and they got access to his bank account and they were able to transfer some money out of it. So those are vulnerable times when those cell phones are being changed. But that's something I would have never in a million years thought about.
Yeah, and that's something called the SIM card swap, where there's been a compromise and they've been able to get a SIM card, put it in, and reset passwords and what have you. The biggest fraud loss that we've seen last year has to do with investment fraud, and a lot of it has to do with cryptocurrency investment fraud. So, we're seeing people research online, and the fraudsters are paying to have their fake websites up on their search engine, and most people don't realize you're actually communicating with the bad guys. $308 million in crypto, investment fraud loss that had most of it to do with cryptocurrency. Wow. We're seeing romance frauds. They're jumping up. Spear phishing frauds are where businesses get these fake emails thinking to be from an executive asking for payment. The service scams we're seeing nonstop. And like you mentioned, the extortion scams pretending to be, CRA. They're using these technologies and, getting away with millions and millions of dollars every day.
And let's talk a little bit, Detective, about the romance scams. These absolutely break my heart. And we know that there was one person that had taken money from over 100 women. And I feel for those women that, the trust was there. Walk us through what this looks like.
Yeah, we've actually had some success with the OP in the Ottawa area arresting a scammer out of Toronto, and he was an intermediary. So this particular victim fell to a romance fraud where she was on a dating site, and it's equal between men and women, and we're seeing that they're using, catfishing techniques on these dating sites. They may even just try and get into your Facebook by sending you a friend request. And then the conversation starts. They start to profess how much they love you. And then before you know it, there's always some sort of chaotic event. It's almost like a soap opera. Like it's a made-for-TV movie where, I'm overseas traveling. Maybe I'm in the military. Something's happened. My son was hurt. We don't have any benefits. Can you help me out? And it pulls on the strings of the victims, and then they start to send money over. The victim in Kemptville, she lost $150,000. Oh. And then we arrested the individual. We had the OPP plane and the emergency response team. We got this guy. We got a search warrant into his phone. And when we got into his phone, you wouldn't believe all the different frauds and scams. We found 15 different victims with identity fraud, and he's before the courts now. But, this is a simple example of how it's like globalized organized crime that are targeting people online. So the technology facilitate that. So, always be worried about who it is you're messaging, who you let into your social media, and keep your privacy settings high in your social media.
And thank you for all of that. We're speaking with Detective John Armitt of the OPP. All the grandparent schemes as well absolutely break my heart. And I actually sat down with my mom about 6 months ago, and I said, Mom, this is what's happening. She's in her 80s. And I sat down with her and I said, no one is ever going to call you to say that Avery's in jail. No one's ever going to call you to say that, you might get a call like this. You just hang up, because my mom's like the nicest person on the planet. So you just hang up. If they're saying don't call your daughter or don't do this, that is not the way the world works. And she's a really savvy person. She's a smart lady. But you talk about her granddaughter and everything changes, right?
Well, I appreciate you raising attention to this, because I launched a media campaign through the OP and our policing partners early in February, specifically to talk about this separate from the Fraud Prevention Month. So we know with these fraudsters, they're going through Canada 411. They're looking for these elderly people that still have landlines. It's a perfect recipe. You got a phone number, you got a name, and you got an address. So what they're doing is they're calling up, like you said, muffling their voice, saying that they're in some sort of accident, what have you. They've been arrested. They need you to talk as a grandparent over to the law enforcement officer or the lawyer, and they're saying, in order to get bail money, we need cash, and we're going to send a courier to the house. And we actually worked with Ottawa Police just recently on one of these investigations, and we were able to get the courier. This is organized crime. Let's not kid ourselves. They're making millions and millions and millions. And last year alone, we had $9.2 million in reported losses of the grandparent scam. So I always say, have a code word with your grandparents or your elderly family members. Let them know that police will not call and ask for cash. And even with the bail system and the sureties, the Crown attorneys don't actually ask for cash. They ask for cash in trust, if you will, like a promissory note sort of thing. So no one will ever come to your house and ask for cash. And the challenge we have is trying to get this information out to our elderly folks. So, if you have someone that that may be a potential victim, reach out to them and talk about these different grandparent scam pitches, because it's really devastating.
It is absolutely devastating. I have learned a lot from you today. Thank you. And let's stay in touch, because I think your point right off the top is, yes, this is Fraud Prevention Month, but this is 365.
It is, and I just want to bring attention on March 9th. I'll be hosting a live chat on the OP Twitter and Facebook, and we're actually going to have a partnership with Rogers Communications, Royal Bank, and Binance Canada. Are going to be talking about what they see targeting their customers and clients and their fraud prevention tips. So thank you for bringing this story to our folks in Ottawa.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Detective John Armitt joining us from the OPP. Really, be aware, be really, really cautious when it comes to anything to do with your devices, and if it just doesn't feel right off the top, it's probably telling you something. Listen, we have a very big show for you today. You won't want to go anywhere. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. That was a lot. I think I need a nap.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Your mouth can do a lot of amazing things. And your mouth can save a life.
Hi, I'm Tom Wong. I'm just one of close to 1,000 Canadians in search of a stem cell match. We need your help.
A simple swab is all you need to register on the National Stem Cell Database. You could be the one to save a life. Find the hero in you.
I was born and raised in Musqueam First Nation territory by my mother, who spoke Hunkaminam to me. As a child, I ceased using my mother tongue, as to use any language other than English was considered not being Canadian, so I was told. The old people came to me in a dream and reminded me of who I am and where I come from. I have reawakened. My roots are strong, and I'm no longer a silent speaker. My language tells me where I am from. It defines me and guides me to teach others to learn and understand our culture and traditions. A gift for those in the present and the unborn generations. What was lost is found. What was asleep has awakened. My blood is here, and I am complete. I have returned home.
Hi there, this is Meg from Fit Over 50. In our next workout, we're going to be using weights for a full body workout. You can expect both beginner and advanced options. See you then.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We are keeping our eyes on the sky. Denise Andriachi from City News, of course, our weather specialist, is going to join us in a couple of minutes and walk through what we can expect in the next sort of 48 hours weather-wise. We definitely want to keep our eyes there. First, we wanted to have a conversation today with Tazim Virani, Senior Vice President at SE Health. Hello, Tazim.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's a pleasure to spend time with you. This is something, I'll be honest with you, was not on my radar, and that is ageism, based on age, obviously, hiding in healthcare. What's happening here, Tazim?
Yeah, it's a really important topic, and I'm really passionate about talking about ageism and raising awareness about ageism. So my organization where I'm working, SE Health, we're really committed to building an age-inclusive society. And ageism is really like a form of discrimination that really affects so many of us. And this week is a special week. It's a global rally week for the Global Alliance for the Rights of Older Persons. And my organization, SE Health, is a member of this alliance. And the global rally happens every year, usually around this time. And it's really to urge governments, including our own Canadian government, to sign on to the United Nations Convention to protect the rights of older persons. And addressing ageism is really foundational to protecting the rights of older persons. And so this afternoon, we're having a virtual panel conversation on ending ageism in healthcare. Healthcare is where I work in, and my organization works in. And we want to invite healthcare leaders and providers to get involved in this conversation.
And let me ask you, Tazim, is this both people receiving care and giving care, or focused on only one of those facets?
So the primary focus really is about, the public, right? So older persons receiving care. But more and more, Sam, healthcare workers are also getting older, and we need to think about, is there ageism happening amongst the people working in the healthcare industry as well? And what kinds of ways are we being fair or unfair to them? But the primary focus for us is really to ensure that in healthcare we're really making sure that this form of discrimination is not there.
And let me ask you, Tazim, you've got an event today. Walk us through who that is open to, and can people participate?
Yeah, so it's at noon today, so it's still time for people to attend. It's just an hour in duration. We've been targeting healthcare providers and leaders, but it is open to really anyone. We've already got about 300 people registered and still registering, and about 2/3 are in the healthcare, and about 1/3 of them are, people in the broader society. We have a panel of experts, individuals who are really spending a lot of their time and energy in this area, who are going to be, part of that conversation. And it is just to raise awareness about the prevalence and implications of ageism in the healthcare system, and to really invite healthcare leaders and professionals, but also others, to become, more aware, to advocate more, to become champions to combat ageism, and just even in our own individual lives to be more aware of, things like, for example, how we make aging jokes, how we internalize certain behaviors or attitudes, such as like, we can't teach an old dog new tricks, those kinds of things, or when you forget something, saying, I'm having a senior moment, and really those kinds of attitudes continue to emphasize misconceptions about aging. Not everyone has those kinds of situations, and then those attitudes continue to perpetuate in all aspects of society, including healthcare.
Tazim, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention today, and all the success to you today for your event.
Thank you so much.
Tazim Virani joining us today, Senior Vice President at SE Health. Appreciate her time today. I wanted to get caught up today with my colleague, Denise Andriacci, City News weather specialist. Hi, Denise.
Good morning. How are you on this Friday? Happy Friday.
Well, happy Friday to you. We certainly are keeping you busy this winter, aren't we, Denise?
Listen, you know what? I mean, temperatures have not been so bad, but we keep riding this wave of active weather here across the province. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So what can we expect? I'm going to be leaving the studio today around 1 o'clock. What's going to be happening sort of, leading into Saturday?
Well, I think the good news about this latest whack of winter weather is that it mainly is going to be late tonight. So we are getting through the evening commute later on relatively unscathed. We'll have some increasing cloud, and that's really it. For Smiths Falls, we are under snowfall warnings. We're expecting those scattered flurries probably after the dinner hour. I would say we have until at least 7 p.m. before some of that active weather pushes in. A little bit later for Ottawa, special weather statements, I believe, are still in place. We'll probably see that upgraded at some point, but the snow for Ottawa is mainly overnight, Sam, but it is going to be heavy at times. And for anyone that works shift work, Saturdays are not always a day off for everybody. So Saturday morning is going to be a tricky time to navigate the roads. The snow will have been heavy and steady from about midnight tonight. So tomorrow morning is going to be really snow covered. The crews will have a lot of snow to certainly clean up. And the winds are going to be breezy. I wouldn't say we're seeing the worst of the winds. That's through southwestern Ontario today. So we're not expecting blizzard conditions, but a good chunk of snow, 10 to 20 centimeters.
Wow, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a short amount of time, too, because It's not really spread over 24 hours. It's going to be within 6 to 12 hours.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And we've talked about this before, Denise. This winter, it just seems every week we've got something.
Yeah, it's just, the way the jet stream is. There's different air masses at play, and we just keep riding. We just keep seeing these systems. Most of them are originating in either Texas or Colorado, and then they start to kind of move through, portions of the Midwest and central U.S. They start to tap into some Gulf moisture. By the time they make it to the Great Lakes, they're huge. So we start to see some of that snow, and but it's been funny because we haven't been that cold. So sometimes we've seen a lot of mixing as well the last month or so, and some freezing precipitation. This looks to be like we're mainly in the snow zone. So I don't think there's a concern for icy or freezing precip. This is a snow story for us.
Okay, good to know. You wouldn't know spring was on the way, but it's coming for us, right?
Eventually. Oh, well, look at the long-range models. I mean, there isn't a ton of cold. That's just been the trend all winter long. We haven't seen too much cold, but I'll just open the long-range models here. And in terms of those temperature trends, I wouldn't say that it's, we're going to see any big shots of warmth in the first 2 weeks of March. Once in a while when the kids have March break, they get those days, those one-off days where it's 12, 13, 14 degrees. So everyone's wearing shorts and t-shirt for a couple of hours in the afternoon. Yeah, it's not going to be that type of March break where it's feeling like spring. So I would say plan those activities for the kids: outdoor skating, maybe they want to go snow tubing or snowboarding at any local hills. It's going to be one of those March breaks, not the type of March break that you're necessarily spending at the playground.
Okay, always helpful to spend time with you, Denise Andriacci, my colleague, my City News weather specialist. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
Thank you, and drive safe.
Thank you, will do for sure. Appreciate Denise's take on the weather. We're going to be following very closely here at City News any of that weather development. When we come back, the absolute heartbreaking situation in Turkey. It's unbelievable, the loss of life there. We're going to be speaking with a representative of the Embassy of the Republic of Turkey, talking about a fundraising effort happening on this Sunday that you may want to help out with. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university, so they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support. Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
One for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 10:30. Good morning. This Friday, 3rd of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, we have some sunshine, -8. Here's what's making news right now. So by all accounts, tonight's winter storm is going to be short but intense at times. It's a system coming up from Texas, has a large swath, and it will impact southern Ontario, eastern Ontario. Those areas under a winter storm warning right now. Environment Canada right now with a special weather statement in effect for Ottawa and the Valley, calling for about 10 to 15 centimeters of snow tonight into tomorrow morning. The Ontario Nurses Association says contract talks with the Ontario Hospital Association have broken down. The two sides will now head to arbitration in early May. The Nurses Union and the hospitals began mediation on Wednesday. Nurses and other healthcare workers held a mass rally in protest downtown yesterday, demanding better staffing and wages. The Ontario Liberals are gathering in Hamilton this weekend to set the stage for a leadership race. The party's annual general meeting is set to be the largest in 2 decades, with 1,500 people expected to attend. Members will pick a new party executive and vote on several constitutional amendments, including whether to stick with delegated conventions or move to a form of direct voting for the leader. And it could make for a quiet NHL trade deadline day. Teams across the league have been busy ahead of today's cutoff at 3 p.m., including the Sens. Most, if not all, the big names already off the board. Patrick Kane joined the New York Rangers earlier this week, while Ryan O'Reilly was acquired by the Leafs last month. Those two were just two blockbuster deals consummated before today. The flurry of action doesn't leave a lot of high-profile talent available. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. We know that we've been following very closely the devastating earthquake, 2 earthquakes that have hit Turkey and Syria. And one thing I know about Canadians is they want to help. And we have a way to do that. We wanted to spend some time today with Pinar Denise Yabucu. How are you, Pinar?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Pinar's a counselor with the Embassy of the Republic of Turkey. Pinar, I don't even know what to say. My heart breaks for the people of Turkey.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And I understand you're doing a fundraising event on this Sunday. What does that look like, Pinar?
Well, yes, thank you. The preparations are going on. Actually, it is the Turkish associations who are mainly organizing this event. The event will take place, it's a fundraising event, and it will take place in Ottawa City Hall this Sunday, starting from 2 p.m. And as the embassy, we are assisting the Turkish associations. As far as I know, the mayor, the Ottawa's mayor, will be there, Mr. Sutcliffe, and there will be members of the diplomatic community and citizens from Ottawa, and the Turkish community will be there. So we'll look forward to have this event this Sunday. Yes.
Oh, Pinar, I'm really happy to see that everyone's coming together and you're being so beautifully supported as well in this effort. Where will the money be directed, Pinar?
Well, the money will be directed to, there are Turkish institutions. AFAD is the Turkish Disaster Management and Coordination Agency. It's the main agency, and the Turkish Red Crescent. And there are so many, NGOs in Turkey working for this. So the money collected will be directly sent to Turkey, to the relevant institutions.
And how did you learn, Pinar, about the tragedy unfolding in Turkey?
Well, I learned it at night, actually, in Ottawa. I learned it from the news that two big earthquakes took place, like 7.8 and 7.6 scale. So I learned it right after it happened. I think it was 4 o'clock in the morning, one of them. So I learned it from the news, like you.
Mm-hmm. And it's just so heartbreaking to see the loss of life and just trying to rebuild, the different buildings, and obviously so many people are homeless at this time. And how else can we help? If by chance that we can't attend on Sunday, we encourage everyone to do so. But if we can't attend, is there another way you'd like us to help?
Well, of course, there are many ways to help, to donate. And also, with this occasion, we would like to thank the Canadian government and the Canadians. They have been extremely generous. They showed their solidarity. There are ways that you can help. Actually, the government of Canada is now doing a matching fund after the Canadian Red Cross. A second matching fund is they're doing a contribution to Humanitarian Coalition, as you may know, and you can also directly help to Turkish institutions like Turkish Red Crescent. And the Turkish Red Crescent is also working very closely and in coordination with the Canadian Red Cross. So there are many ways to help this time. And also I can say that instead of in-kind donations, the financial aid would be preferable at this time.
Thank you so much, Pinar, for joining us, and I wish you all the success on Sunday.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Pinar Denise Yapuja joining us, counselor in the Embassy of the Republic of Turkey. If you can support that event, certainly reach out to them. There's lots of different information on Eventbrite about that event, so we encourage you to spend time on Sunday helping the people of Turkey. Very busy news week here for us. I wanted to touch base with our news director here, Mark Day, and talk a little bit about the news of the week. Mark, it has been a busy one.
Yeah, it has. And, I think everyone is just feeling it's a weird feeling right now. I was talking to David Smith about it, where we are in this point in time of the month. It's a new month, right. A couple of days in. We're close to spring, it's just just over the horizon. If we can just get there, it'll be fantastic. We have more snow coming tonight, so that's always news. I mean, the weather is always news, no matter what. And on top of that, just so much happening at City Hall this week. with the budget, with the police board budget, I mean, it's we've been very busy. The entire staff,
very busy, absolutely. And we saw the news come down late yesterday regarding Nordstrom's closing here in the capital, both stores in the train yards and at the Rideau Centre. What a big loss! Those are big square feet for those retail outlets.
Huge. I mean, you think of the Rideau Centre and that's the anchor. I mean, when you think of that big store there and the amount of space that it takes up, when Nordstrom moved in, it was just such a relief for many, especially those stores that are in there, because it's not just affecting employees of the company of Nordstrom. It affects everyone in that mall who may have stores there, and for retail, it's a definitely a huge loss in that area and train yards as well. And Nordstrom it's a big company that moved in with a lot of fanfare. They opened their first big store in Calgary. That's where they launched their big flagship, and then they moved here to Ottawa and then other cities in the country. 2,500 jobs, I believe, and it's an American company, big American company, and now all eyes are towards, okay, what do we replace it with? What can move in there? Is it an opportunity to bring in something else? I know that a lot of Zellers memes were all over last night, and that's something that the Bay's been working on as well with a retail store. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, and a lot of that I'm sure has to do with the pandemic and just the way that people have changed their habits, and it's a high end retail as well. It's not cheap,
For sure, and I think talking about habits, ironically, it was so bizarre. About 2 hours before I heard the news, I was speaking with a friend of mine about, do you ever go to the mall anymore? It used to be that was the only place you could go, but with obviously online shopping and just things have changed so much through the pandemic. Is the mall dead? Is that something that's going to live to see another decade or two?
Yeah, and for me, I just started going back a little bit more where, we went to Tanger Outlets there a couple of weeks ago. I really enjoy that experience. I love going to the mall and actually being able to try something on and just that atmosphere. I mean, sometimes it's hectic, especially over the holidays, but it's always nice sometimes to get out and to have that experience where you can, actually look at something physical and decide whether or not you want to purchase it. Because I do a lot of shopping online like many people, but it's just nice to get out and to feel that every once in a while and to get into a mall. And some studies say that people want more of that. They want to be able to get out and to shop locally, not have to rely on shopping on the internet all the time. So yeah, it's strange times we're definitely in. I know I'm from a small town in Cape Breton, and the mall that is in our town was always the focal point. Right. That was that's where you went. That's where you hung out. There was no other place, right? And over the years, I know they've struggled. They've struggled in small towns when a big Walmart moves in, and that was 30 years ago when that happened. And but that Walmart is what keeps those retail spaces in that mall open. Right. That's the big store there, and it allows them to at least survive in the mall. So I don't know what the future holds, but it'll be interesting to see over the next 10 to 20 years what happens to those physical spaces and how they may be able to innovate and come up with new ways of building. And you go to Bayshore, just beautiful, the renovations,
gorgeous,
that have gone on over there over the last couple of years. It's just a beautiful mall, and it's always nice to get to the Rideau Centre too. So hopefully, for those employees who lost their jobs, that they'll be able to find something, and that's tough.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about our Ottawa Senators. Mark, I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm feeling really positive. The Sens are doing really well, and what a beautiful night for Derek Brassard last night, his 1,000th game. The team, came together and really commemorated that event as well. It was just so nice to see that kind of spirit in the locker room.
Oh, for sure. He's a great guy too. I met him years ago. A good friend of mine played with him in the NHL in Columbus, and nothing but great things I've always heard about him. And I know that his teammates truly adore him in the locker room. He is a great veteran, a great player on and off the ice as well, and it's always nice to see those special moments, and a special moment for this team too. It's down to the crunch, and when the trade deadline day, years past, I would take work off. I wasn't working in radio at the time, but It was just so exciting because you never knew what was going to happen up until that deadline. And the way things have moved this year, like a couple of years prior to this, is that a lot of those big moves were made prior to today.
Right.
So it's not as exciting for the Sportsnet team, for Jeff Merrick and Elliot and the gang. They're trying to find something to talk about. They used to dedicate, I think it was almost like 20 hours a day to trade deadline day. Now it's not as long. They start at 10 a.m. and, they can finish up a little earlier. But it's, for the Sens, they've made some big moves. I know that Pierre Dorion is happy. He's excited. There's still opportunity here, but it's going to be the crunch, and a lot of teams are trying to make the playoffs. And always exciting to be able to get behind the Sens and, to cheer them on to that finish line. Hopefully they can cross it and make it into the postseason.
100%. We have our eyes on that wild card spot. I don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah, don't jinx it.
We're all thinking about the Ottawa Senators. Thanks so much, Mark Day, our news director. He definitely keeps us all ticking here at City News. When we come back, we're going to speak with Paul Reiser, a comedian and an actor. He's coming to Ottawa. Want to check him out? Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef. With the cost of food constantly on the rise, we can't afford to let good food go to waste. I'll show you how to whip up a tasty and healthy meal with on sale and discounted items, which will save you a few bucks as well.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play, and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll introduce you to Ability Dogs Canada. They are doing some amazing work right here in our community and, of course, across the country. And they have some wonderful service dogs. We'll find out about some of the great success stories with those service dogs, how they help people in our community, and more importantly, how you can help them, whether it be fostering or in many other ways. All that and more on Friday's Daytime.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to fangirl a bit here. I'm very excited to welcome Paul Reiser to the show, comedian and actor. So many award-winning opportunities for Paul. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Well, I'm so excited. I was looking at all of your accomplishments, and I couldn't keep up.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting,
isn't it, Sam?
It is. It's awesome, and of course, I loved Mad About You. Like, loved that show. And
well, that's very nice to hear. Thank you.
And walk me through what was that like, Paul, during that time? Because times were different then.
Well, you were younger.
Yes, I was.
I was younger.
Yes.
Everybody was younger. That was just it was a show that I wrote because I was doing stand-up. I was only doing stand-up at the time, and my material was all about being newly married. I always tell people I'm not smart enough to make anything up, so I can only just tell you what just happened and see if it's funny. And I wrote this show, and luckily everybody at the networks went, "Oh boy, that sounds like our house." And so we kind of knew we were onto something, that it was ringing true. And then the key ingredient was finding the right actress, and the gods smiled when I met Helen Hunt, and we just had a great relationship, and it felt like you believe these people were married. So we did 7. We didn't know, you never know if it's going to take off or if it's going to be good, or if it is good, if it's going to be a hit. And we were lucky. We did 7 seasons, and then we did a little revisit a few years back to see what time has done to these poor people. And it was still fun. It was still a great experience.
The chemistry between you two, it almost felt like you were friends, to us as viewers, that you were our friends, and this was a couple we were watching in our own lives. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, well, that's nice to hear. I do hear that a lot. One of the nice things that I've gotten to do when I'm out now touring, doing stand-up, is I meet a lot of people after the show, or I'll take questions. We do a little Q&A during the show, and I'll be honest, I didn't quite know at the time, back in the 90s when we didn't have social media and you weren't in touch with everybody every second, I didn't really understand the impact. I didn't get how many people liked it and how much it impacted. But people really do have, they relate to it. They go, boy, I'll hear stories. Oh, that episode was so important, or that joke. We do that running joke now for all these years. Or we got married to your theme song. I thought, wow, this is really nice. And to be honest, when I going out now and doing live shows, the audiences, it kind of feels for me like I'm getting together with old friends, because we have all grown up together. And so we were newlyweds then, and we're not so much newlyweds now, but we're all going through the same things together. So it's great to go have a couple of laughs about it.
Well, it's wonderful, and you've just you've had Golden Globes and Emmys, and you've written some best-selling books. I mean, the list is very, very long. You've been nominated for an Emmy for your work in Netflix's The Kaminsky Method, Stranger Things. I mean, how does all this happen, Paul? Like, is it just no? And I know that sounds kind of funny, but is it like, it just seems like you're everywhere, I guess, and I don't know how you manage all that.
Well, first of all, it's spread over a lot of time, so it's not all in the same weekend. But what's funny, what's sort of ironic to me, when I started, I just wanted to be a stand-up comedian. That was my goal, to get on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And I got to do that, and then took these left turns and got really, these wonderful opportunities. But what the result was, I didn't do stand-up for years. Actually, when Mad About You started, that's when I really just got busy with that, and so it wasn't until recently that I got out and got back to doing stand-up, which I love. That's actually the most fun for me, and people don't believe it. But what's funny to me is that people go, "Oh, I didn't know the guy from Stranger Things does comedy." I went, "What do you mean you didn't know?" I thought, "Well, that's fair. I haven't been out for a while." But that's why it's so great. And I don't believe I've ever performed in Ottawa, so I'm looking forward to getting out and I will bring a jacket. I understand it's chillier than Southern California.
It's a little chilly. I will tell you that you're performing at the Meridian Center Point Theater. It is one of my favorite theaters, and you will love it. You will be welcomed with open arms here in Ottawa for sure. We're a very welcoming group, and I have to say, I'm a little shy to tell you this, but I do a little stand-up.
Yeah, see?
And the reason I'm telling you is because I think there's nothing more. I just get so excited when I have the opportunity to do comedy in front of a live audience. It's such a vulnerable place to be, and I just get such a high off of it. So is that how you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's the extra bonus, something you wouldn't have thought of years ago, but seeing a theater full of live people that are not on Zoom is like an extra treat. That didn't used to be something you'd think about. But we're actually in a room together, and it's still, it's been a while that we're all out and about again. But it is. It's always exciting. And people say, well, you're on Stranger Things. That's the biggest show in the world. I went, yeah, but it's not as fun. You know what I mean? Right. It's a great thrill to be on it, and the reach of it is fantastic, but it's not the same kick as as seeing live people laugh. And the other thing I've noticed now, I did another interview, and a woman said, well, do you talk about politics? I went, oh, God, no. No, it's like, I don't talk about anything important or serious or provocative. It's like, and people, and I joke about that, and people actually applaud because they're going, thank God. Yes. We just really want to have a night off of can we just get together and laugh? And it's like, I never thought of that as such a special treat, but it has become that for audiences and for me. It's like, let's just go out and have some fun tonight.
100%. And the pandemic, we're all isolating. It was and it's still for many, just such a challenging time. Did you find it a creative time for yourself? Was there anything you could sort of see that was funny that was happening in the world?
No, I didn't find it funny, but I did find it creative. It was because it was nice to eliminate all the distractions and to sit at home and actually just be a little bit more thoughtful. And I did a lot of writing. It wasn't necessarily funny writing, but and I think this is a positive. I really came to understand what drinking is all about.
Right.
That was the bourbon industry, I think, did very well in my neck of the woods. So I there were parts of it that I liked. The death and dying, didn't like that. No. The illness, that was bad. But staying put for a while was, I think, it could be very informative.
It was.
There's a big fancy word I used.
Very, very fancy. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. And when you look out into your audience, who's there, Paul?
That's a really funny question. It has changed. It used to be, I always expected be the mad about you people, but I can look now as the people are filing in, and I can go, all right, those people sort of my age, 40s, 50s, 60s, those are the mad about you people. The other people, the older people, those are Kaminsky Method fans. I can see the younger Stranger Things fans, and I can see a lot of the Boys fans. I go, okay, that's those guys right there. They're watching the Boys. So it's very much a cross current, but I have to say, I don't tailor anything for anybody. I'll tell you what happened in my house and see if it rings true. And everybody seems to laugh across the divide. So, it turns out, and this from stand-up, when you say something, as you say, vulnerable, the most intimate, personal stuff is always the most universal because we're all ultimately going through the same things. So when you talk about personal stuff, people laugh because they're going, yeah, sounds really true.
Absolutely. My comedy is all around the fact of I have a collection of husbands and I married an Aussie, and that's kind of where I go. So it's very much that where people can kind of relate to it, and but no one does it better than you, Paul. I am so thrilled. This is a career highlight for me, spending time with you today.
Very nice. Well, if you come to the show, and I hope you do, come say hello.
Oh, absolutely. Consider it done, my friend. Paul Reiser, comedian, actor, coming to Meridian Center Point Theater March 21st. Get your tickets. He is awesome, as you know, incredible performer, and we're so grateful to spend time with him here on City News. Stay with us, everyone.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired, and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 11 o'clock. Good morning on this Friday, the 3rd of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa, some sunshine, -8, -6 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Spring officially arrives in 2.5 weeks, but winter is showing us it's not done with us just yet. Environment Canada issuing a special weather statement for Ottawa. Snowfall warning for Smiths Falls. City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi has the details on this latest system.
The good news about this latest whack of winter weather is that it mainly is going to be late tonight. So we are getting through the evening commute later on relatively unscathed. We'll have some increasing cloud, and that's really it. For Smiths Falls, we are under snowfall warnings. We're expecting those scattered flurries probably after the dinner hour. I would say we have until at least 7 p.m. before some of that active weather pushes in. A little bit later for Ottawa, so, special weather statements, I believe, are still in place. We'll probably see that upgraded at some point, but the snow for Ottawa is mainly overnight.
Now, winds will be whipping around as well, so motorists are advised to be prepared for reduced visibility and hazardous driving conditions from accumulating snowfall tonight into tomorrow morning. Contract talks between the Ontario nurses and the province have broken down. City News reporter Chris Curries has the details.
The Ontario Nurses Association represents 68,000 registered nurses in Ontario and 18,000 nursing affiliates. And provincial president Bernie Robinson says the two sides about 6% apart.
Mediation was not successful.
Okay.
It broke off last evening. There has been no negotiated settlement reached. And we are heading to arbitration in early May.
Of which she's frustrated that once again their contractual fate in the hands of an arbitrator, and also frustrated that this is now the norm for them. She says the response to their demands disappointing, and they don't solve staffing or wage issues, and it does not improve patient care. Chris Curry, City News.
Dangerous moments for an STO driver in Gatineau last night. The empty bus he was driving was shot at near the intersection of Mont Bleu and Cité des Jeunes. He heard loud noises, stopped the bus to inspect if there was any damage. He didn't see anything at the time, so he ended his shift at the STO garage. Police were called, and after further inspection, they discovered damage to the bus caused by bullets. Investigators, crime scene technician went to the area to analyze that scene. If you have any information that may help the investigation, please contact Gatineau Police. Ontario Liberals are coming together this weekend for their annual general meeting with the impending leadership race set to dominate the agenda.
This is expected to be the Ontario Liberal Party's largest AGM in 2 decades, with 1,500 people set to attend. The party looking to come up with a path forward following a second consecutive disastrous election result last June. Setting the stage for the leadership race will be among the top items discussed. 3 contenders who are openly considering a run are MP Nathaniel Erskine Smith, MP and former Ontario Cabinet Minister Yasser Naqvi, and current provincial caucus member and former MP Ted Hsu. And one of the first orders of business for the new party executive selected this weekend will be to set the rules and timelines for that leadership race. Laura Carney, City News.
I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I think we can all agree this city needs more affordable housing. With 12,000 people on the wait list and inflation, everything people are facing at the grocery store and the gas tank, and everything else that's going on in the world in terms of the pressures financially on Canadians and particularly people here in the Ottawa area, we know housing affordability is a challenge. Well, there's a project that was planned for the Orleans area, and we wanted to talk to Brandon Bay about that, board chair of Make Housing Affordable. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
It's my pleasure. Brandon, we know that Ottawa's Planning and Housing Committee had an opportunity to move forward on affordable housing, and this is the location at 360 Kennedy Lane, the Orleans United Church area, and unfortunately this didn't move forward at committee. Walk us through what happened here, Brandon.
Sure. So what we have here is the Queenswood United Church doing incredible church things. You know, churches have long been community centers and sanctuaries for people, a place of support and refuge, and many of them in the city and around the world run, you know, food banks and shelters. And this one in Orleans identified that they could go a little bit further. And, you know, the United Church has long been one of the most committed to this in the country. They were lobbying the federal government to legalize abortions in the 60s, and they've always, you know, really put the people first, even ahead of their own, you know, dogma and preaching. And so this is them saying, we have this land, we know we're in a housing crisis, and we can do something to help our people. And so they're proposing a development to replace their grass field with 81 units, 26 of them below market rate. And so it's housing for 250 people in a great community that's, you know, the poster child of what we want for suburban intensification. You know, the site is zoned for 5 stories, but they've chosen to keep them to 3 to, you know, respect the character of the neighborhood and fit in well. And it's a green development. They're ready to put solar panels in place if they can get the funding secured and get everything in place correctly and make it a net zero development from day one. They've got the affordable housing component. It's dense. It's, you know, they've got 2 churches on one side and a park on the other. And so the community is really well nestled and serviced already. There's multiple bus routes that serve it. It's 5 minutes to many restaurants, a convenience store, a pharmacy, an M&M meat shops. You know, most of their grocery needs are right at hand, but if they want fresh produce, they got to go a little further to the 15-minute community level that we're pitching at the city that we want to develop. And within that range, they've also got cinema, the Shankman Arts Center, some grocery stores, some schools, the Plasterline Shopping Center, the new LRT station that's going to be open around the same time this development's done, and the Orleans Cumberland Community Resource Center that offers, you know, employment assistance and a food bank service. And, you know, so we've already got the services in place for our vulnerable population. And so it's an incredible location for affordable housing. We don't need to do anything extra to make this a very livable community for them. And so city staff, of course, said, yes, let's go, because this is meeting all of the criteria that we've said that we want at the city level. But the planning committee said no. They'd prefer to solve a parking issue that has been, mentioned by some neighbors in the area. That, it's like we have said that 61 of the 81 units are already going to have parking, and so that's a spot for every market rate unit and 5 of the affordable units. And people living in affordable housing often can't afford cars. That's a very expensive thing to do. And there are a lot of people in the city that would like to live without a car, and so this could be a great place for them to be. But we're insisting that parking is a big issue, and we need to probably cut back on some housing to do it. And the delays, to go back and revisit this are probably going to end up costing us the net zero portion of this development, because they won't have the funds, because the delays and the probable appeals that they'll have to go through will hold it back. And so, Brandon, we're not meeting our housing or our environment goals anymore.
So let me ask you this: when they're looking for 60 parking spots, was there any for visitors or just for the people that live there?
There's 61 spots for the 81 units, and an extra 15 for visitors, and an extra 9 for the church. So There's ample parking on the site. There's some parking available on the streets. And, the city has said that we want to build a city for people. And we need to ask ourselves, do we want to build a city for people, or do we want to build a city for cars? And the official plan says people, and so if we want to build that city for people, we need to stop prioritizing the cars all the time. And we've really been all carrot and no stick on this transition to a more walkable, a more livable, a more pedestrian-friendly city.
Because I think if you were to walk down the street and say to somebody, do you think affordable housing is important? No one's going to say no to that. But yet when it comes into to a community, then there's some. Not every community rebuffs it, but some are saying that in this case they're worried about parking concerns. So give me a sense of what the next steps are, Brandon.
So the city has asked the staff to revisit the parking issue with no more specific direction than that. They've just asked them to come up with a solution. And so hopefully the next time that staff is able to do that and come back to the planning committee, we'd like to see this move forward. And that could be, an offer of free transit passes to the affordable housing residents on the site for some amount of time while they, do other changes to the neighborhood, improving the sidewalks or adding parking elsewhere to improve the walkability of the neighborhood. And they've been directed to do something, and we'd like to make sure that the next time this gets to committee and then ultimately council, it is approved and able to move forward so that we can get, people some homes in this housing crisis.
And I think one of the ways of going about affordable housing is this market rent and the subsidy that all works together, because then we're not creating communities that aren't a combination of different people living there, right? So that's an important piece, and being sort of surrounded by existing families, it really will immediately feel like a community, as opposed to finding a bare piece of property that's maybe outside of the city without transit, without the restaurants, without the grocery that you will refer to. It isn't insulated, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah. This is exactly what the city has been saying it wants to build, and this is exactly what Make Housing Affordable has been pushing the city to build. And the city staff was excited about this proposal, and it's just at the committee level that it's being held up.
We're speaking with Brandon Bay, board chair, Make Housing Affordable. Are you discouraged, Brandon?
Absolutely, I am. Yeah. There was definitely some promise. Ariel Troster in particular, credit to her, she spoke very well about all of this at the committee, and the vote was ultimately 7-5, so it was close. And we just need to win over a few more members of this committee, a few more members of council to really get moving on these great projects across the city.
And so give me a sense of who supported the fact that this project would move ahead. Which councillors? Pull up
my list here. It was councillors Leeper, Troster, Kavanaugh, and I don't remember the two others.
I think the others were Gower and Johnson.
Yes, that's right. Gower and Johnson.
So where does your work go now? Are you lobbying the other 7 members?
That's one of the things we're going to be doing, is making connections with the members of the committee and talking to them about this. I think there's a lot of politicking that goes on as well. Matthew Luloff, the councillor for the area, who's not on the committee, lobbied them pretty heavily to refer this back to staff because that's what his constituents wanted. And so, there's conversations coming from both sides on this, and we're just trying to make sure that we are heard as the big voice in favor. And so we've got a new member of our board taking the lead on making these connections and getting these conversations going and making sure that when more things like this happen across the city, we do get them moving much more quickly and can make progress on this housing crisis.
Brandon, as this particular issue works its way through committee, let's stay in touch. I want to see where we land here, okay?
Absolutely. Happy to come on anytime.
Brandon Bay joining us, board chair of Make Housing Affordable. Brandon and I speaking about 360 Kennedy Lane, which is near the Orleans United Church, and talking about the different issues regarding getting that affordable housing built. So we'll stay on top of that. When we come back, well, I know the snow is on the way, but pet owners need to be thinking about ticks. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Hi there, this is Meg from Fit Over 50. In our next workout, we're going to be using weights for a full body workout. You can expect both beginner and advanced options. See you then.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand, in honor of one child's wish, to fuel the fire that will grant many more. Join the kingdom.
Monsieur de Champlain, when I finish paddling through this wilderness and reach China, I shall greet them wearing this.
Monsieur Nicolet, your mission shall be for the honor of the king and the Holy Faith.
In the summer of 1634, Jean Nicolet set off from Quebec to find a trade route that would link Europe and North America with China.
But where is it? Further. I know the place you are seeking.
For months, Nicolet pushed through the wilderness, searching for the Western Sea.
Goja! Mississippi! What did he say? He says, Mississippi, great water. Mississippi, the sea, China.
Jean Nicolet was wrong. It was Lake Michigan, not the Pacific. But others would follow his dream. Joliet, La Salle, the La Vérendrye's, and they would map most of North America from the Rockies to the Gulf of Mexico.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. I'm Sam Laprade, and I am the proud owner of two of the cutest Labradoodles you've ever seen, Beasley and Lucy. They're the heartbeat of our home. We love them so much, and we want to keep them safe, especially safe from ticks. We wanted to spend some time today with Dr. David Sparks from the Cedarview Animal Hospital. Hello, Dr. Sparks.
Hello, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
It's my pleasure. That you're my vet. I haven't never visited you, but certainly the Cedarview Animal Hospital is where we bring our girls.
Yes, absolutely. I know that. I was actually chatting to Dr. Lindbergh, who I know has seen you a couple of times here earlier. So yeah, we're happy to have you as one of our clients.
Well, we love it so much, and we get great care there. And I got an email the other day from Cedarview Animal Hospital on a very cold February day saying you need to start thinking about ticks. And I looked outside and I thought, why do I need to start thinking about them right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting with these kind of periods of warm weather and cold weather that we've been having through January and February, and certainly now as we get into March. Any time that we get up around 4 degrees, 5 degrees above the freezing mark, we start to see the ticks become active. We can even see it in really localized settings in forest, leaf litter, and things like that, that even below that in those localized environments, they can be active. So it's becoming a bigger trend now that through the winter, really in the cold days, not a problem, but any of those warm days, we do start to worry about the ticks coming out and being a nuisance.
Is it just my imagination, or is the Ottawa area worse than other areas in the country?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. It's probably one of the worst areas in the country. In fact, in certain areas of the country, we don't even really have ticks to worry about, but definitely anywhere in the kind of northeastern seaboard coming up through the U.S. and definitely into Ottawa and the Valley, we have a ton of ticks. And in particular, our ticks tend to carry a little bit of a higher percentage of them carry some of the infectious diseases that we worry about with ticks. So things like Lyme disease and a few others like anaplasma and ehrlichiosis, which we're starting to see more of. So yeah, you're not imagining it.
And so when I think about taking our girls, out for a walk or, to a park or something and spend time with them outside, how should we be sort of monitoring them? We'll talk about the medication side of it, but how should we be monitoring? I think about their coats, they're curly and they look like little teddy bears. So how should we be looking after them?
Yeah, so we have a lot of our clients who have got really well trained to kind of do the daily once over, and that's looking for things in the coat and on the skin, anywhere from fleas or ticks all the way down to lumps and bumps. And so I think just being really active in kind of upkeeping the hygiene and the grooming of your dog and really combing through them and kind of going through them on a daily or every other day type basis. One extra little tip that we've started to use is lint rollers. So picking up like a sticky lint roller from a dollar store or Walmart or whatnot, and then actually lint rolling your dog, because that's really good at picking up some of these little tiny nymph stage ticks, which are so small you often will miss them with the naked eye. And so a few different techniques there, but definitely just being really vigilant about it daily.
Well, I'm off to buy my lint rollers after the show today.
Exactly.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit about medication. Mm-hmm. I know we obviously get it every year for our girls. What should we be doing there, doctor?
Yeah, so the backbone of our prevention certainly is medication. We've got a couple of different versions available. Traditionally, people were used to 5, 10, 15 years ago using topicals, so a lot of different oily type products on the back of the neck, on the coat, that would be either distributed across the skin or absorbed in and be kind of an anti-tick medicine. We now have a very similar formula of medication, but it's available taken as an oral, and so you can give it to the dog either on a monthly basis, or some versions of it are available on a 3-month basis. And you give those products to your pets all through the flea and tick season. So anywhere really, from now, kind of late February, March, right through until November. And we even have some families that are just saying, hey, I'm going to be extra careful. I'm going to give it 12 months a year. I'm not going to have a quote-unquote off-season, because as we talked about, that kind of is fading. There's many different brand names available. Your veterinarian will be your best resource for what they carry and what they're familiar with and what they're comfortable with. I would say more and more we see people going to the oral versions of medications versus the topicals, but both have very good efficacy behind them, and both are used quite often.
We're speaking with Dr. David Sparks from Cedarview Animal Hospital. Last year, I was sitting at the table and I leaned down to pet Lucy, which is our 2-year-old Labradoodle, and I spotted a tick. I felt a tick. And oh my heavens, I had a heart attack. So I used that little, I think I bought it from you, or maybe the place next door, this little yellow extractor.
Yeah, tick twister.
Tick twister, there you go. Oh, so that was a bit of a scary moment. I think people have a little bit of a heart attack when they do find a tick.
Yeah. So anytime we're seeing a dog with a tick on it, there's a few things we want to look at. So first of all, is the tick just crawling in the dog's fur, or is the tick actually embedded, as it sounds like in your case, where the tick has had a chance to start to take up a bit of a blood meal? And then more specifically, with them being embedded, have they had enough time or enough blood in them that now they could have a risk of having transmitted one of these bacterial diseases to your dog? And so we know that there's anywhere between really a 24 to 48, maybe out as long as a 72-hour window of time that it takes for the tick to be latched on to be able to transmit some of these diseases. But that's the thing we really get worried about. The actual tick itself and the little irritation at the attachment site, that can be a nuisance. Obviously, we want to get that off, but we worry more about some of these bacterial diseases. And that's where some of our testing that we have available in the vet clinics comes in for anywhere in that kind of 1 to 2 month period after the tick exposure, after that tick has fed. We start doing some blood testing to look at, was there any transmission of any of these nasty bugs to the dog from that tick exposure.
Thank you for that. Really helpful. Doctor, is there anything else we need to be watching out for as the snow hopefully goes away soon and spring arrives? What else should we be cautious of?
So definitely ticks are probably number one at this time. We do start to worry a little bit about fleas starting to come out, and then definitely as we get into the slightly warmer months through April, May, June, we start to worry a lot about other types of internal parasites, so different things from worms, and then especially heartworm. Once the mosquitoes start to come out, they're our main vector for transmitting heartworm. So all of those basic internal parasites we obviously start to worry about with greater care once we start to get into the big melt. And I definitely would refer people back to their veterinarians and their veterinary teams to talk about, what does my dog need in terms of testing, and what are my best options in terms of flea and tick meds? Am I looking at a topical? Am I looking at an oral? And am I in a demographic where I really should also be on a dewormer and a heartworm medication, not just a flea and tick medication?
And I think it's a really good reminder, Dr. Sparks, before, if you don't currently have an animal and you're thinking about getting a pet, to think about all of these expenses and to really look at the realistic cost of having an animal, because these are all really important pieces, right?
Yeah, precisely, Sam. I think that one of the things is people, we see all these beautiful, dogs available in different media that we look at and online and whatnot, and, we save up our pennies and we go and we spend that, X amount, a couple $1,000s, let's say we get the dog, and then you go to your vet hospital with this beautiful 8 or 12-week-old puppy and you go, oh, what? It's going to be an extra, $500,000, $1,500 in that first year for the spay, for the vaccines, for the flea and tick, for the deworming. So I think that's a very, very important point that people do realize. There are many expenses involved with that, and further to that comes the whole discussion of pet insurance, and that is a thing and it is available, and especially for your non-routine costs, that can be a real lifesaver for a lot of people to look at when they do get a new animal.
And I will not have a pet anymore, ever, without having insurance. And not that I had a bad experience or anything, but I've seen too many stories and too many friends have a situation where they're told that they need a $10,000 surgery and they don't have the insurance, and I just I'm a big proponent of pet insurance for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most veterinary teams that you talk to are going to be in the exact same boat. It can be such a lifesaver, and it can just mean the difference between being able to actually offer that care and see the results of that care versus not even having that as an option in the first place.
What has it been like to be a vet during this time, Dr. Sparks? I can't imagine so many, well, I'll be honest, our two are pandemic puppies. What was it like to get all these calls looking for vet services?
Yeah, it was interesting, especially for me too, because I'm young, so I just came out of vet school 3.5 years ago, and so I kind of came out, had about 8 months of normal, quote-unquote, vet world, and then immediately into pandemic vet world. So the huge increase in people getting pets while they were cooped up at home and had all the time on their hands, that put a huge strain on the vet industry and the amount of service we could provide, because obviously we have a finite limit on how many people and pets we can see. And now the kind of ramifications of people getting pets and being at home with them almost exclusively for a year or two, now going back to the office, now going back to work, we're seeing a lot of behavioral things that we're working on: separation anxiety, generalized anxiety, a lot of pets struggling with that because they've never known not having their owners there roughly 24/7. So it's been a real trying time in the vet world, and hopefully we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel getting a bit back more to normal.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on City News. Beasley and Lucy, they've got their appointments all set up for Cedar View Animal Hospital. Thank you so much, Doctor.
We're looking forward to seeing them, Sam. Thanks so much.
Dr. David Sparks from Cedar View Animal Hospital. Lots of great information there about a tick prevention, a tick medication, and it's kind of hard to think that we need to start thinking about that right now, but the reality is it's here, my friends. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support. Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef. With the cost of food constantly on the rise, we can't afford to let good food go to waste. I'll show you how to whip up a tasty and healthy meal with on sale and discounted items, which will save you a few bucks as well.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's 11:30. Good morning on this Friday, the 3rd of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa, Smiths Falls, some sunshine, -6. Here's what's making news right now. By all accounts, tonight's winter storm is going to be short but intense at times. It is a system coming up from Texas, and a large swath of southern Ontario, eastern Ontario, will get a mix of this under a winter storm warning right now in Smiths Falls. It will start there with some scattered flurries just after 7 o'clock tonight and then move into Ottawa later on. Environment Canada calling for 10 to 15 centimeters of snow for Ottawa, and for Smiths Falls, we could see up to 25 centimeters of snow when it's all done. Ontario Nurses Association says contract talks with the Ontario Hospital Association have broken down. The two sides will now head to arbitration in early May. The nurses union and the hospitals began mediation on Wednesday. Nurses and other healthcare workers held a massive rally and protest downtown yesterday, demanding better staffing and wages. And dangerous moments for an STO driver in Gatineau last night. The empty bus he was driving was shot at near the intersection of Montbleu and Cité de Jeune. Police were called to the garage where the STO bus was at the end of the shift, and after further inspection, they discovered damage caused by bullets. Investigators and crime scene technicians went to the area to analyze the scene. If you have any information or dash cam footage, you're asked to contact Gatineau Police. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank Thank you for spending time with us here on City News. A little bit later in the show, Jason White, our veteran City News anchor, is going to join us to talk about some of the issues that the city has faced this week. As well, when we come back a little bit later for our lunch today, we're going to be spending some time with a couple of councillors. Laura Dudas is going to join us. Sean Devine's going to join us. We're going to talk about all things Ottawa City Hall. We look forward to that discussion. I wanted to spend some time today with Mitch Case from the Métis Nation of Ontario Region 4 councillor. How are you, Mitch?
I'm good, Sam. How are you?
Good. This story is really surprising to me. So I want to learn about this from you. So my understanding is the Métis Nation of Ontario has voted to boot out 5,400 members who lack hard evidence of a Métis connection. How did this all happen, Mitch?
Yeah, so it's a sort of a long story and one of sort of the evolution of the Métis government in the province of Ontario. When the Métis Nation of Ontario was formed in 1993, there wasn't the national definition of who was Métis. There was a long-standing tradition of Métis communities from the Upper Great Lakes westward identifying themselves and standing up and resisting colonialism. But there wasn't an established system that provided clarity. And so there were, a lot of folks that were given cards that as the system developed, as the law developed, and as our communities redefined themselves, it became clear that maybe we had two different groups of people in the Métis Nation of Ontario. Métis Nation of Ontario has been a leader on asserting Métis rights in this province and across the country. The Powley decision coming out of my home community is literally the test used by all Métis communities and all Métis governments to establish Métis rights. And the plebiscite results give us the direction to move forward to ensure that everyone we represent are in fact Métis rights holders.
So, Mitch, why would somebody step forward and say they were Métis if they weren't?
Well, I don't want to get too much into speculating, but I think sometimes it comes down to a misunderstanding of the definition. And so if you take a very hard French translation of the word Métis to mean mixed, then there are a lot of people who are of mixed, Aboriginal and Indigenous and non-Indigenous ancestry, but they're not descended from actual Métis communities that define themselves as a separate, distinct people with a distinct culture, a distinct history, a distinct worldview. And so, I think that's why it has taken so long for the Métis Nation of Ontario to deal with this issue, because a lot of the people who, didn't have complete files, they didn't put their hands up maliciously. So we wanted to do this as respectfully as possible to those folks.
And it must be disappointing, Mitch, to even have to talk about this. I mean, this seems, opposite of what we're trying to do in this country when it comes to truth and reconciliation.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think this is exactly what we're trying to create in this country, the ability for Indigenous people to be self-determining. And the Métis Nation and our communities here in Ontario participated in the work of establishing the national definition in 2002. And, we have that right to determine who we are. And the plebiscite results are, giving us the direction, the leadership, the direction to move forward, calling a special assembly and ensuring that, everyone that we represent are in fact descended from our communities in the 7 historic communities in Ontario or in Western Canada.
Thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate that. I'm learning too, Mitch, right? So,
sure.
So I appreciate that very much. Let me ask you this. Are people being asked to provide ancestry documentation?
Yeah, so that's been ongoing for well over a decade. And so we have been, we have made significant investments into our registry system to give as much help as humanly possible to individuals with incomplete files. At one point when we started the registry review process, I got a letter saying my file was incomplete because there was the document linking my mother to my grandfather was missing. Okay, well, we sent in her birth certificate, and it was that the 200 years of history was already there, but there was a missing link. And so, some of those issues were minor, like my issue was. Some of them are, that there's just no connection to the Métis community, and we've provided as much support as we can, and we've provided, that work started, like I say, over a decade ago, of requesting people to send in more information, to make sure that their files are complete, to update their files where they could, So we've done everything we can as the Métis government to provide that support, and then at some point it just comes down to if the documents aren't there, they aren't there.
Really interesting, Mitch. I've learned a lot from you today. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Mitch Case joining us from the Métis Nation of Ontario, Region 4 Councillor. Really appreciate his time today. We wanted to spend some time today with Sharon Somerville from Fair Vote Canada. Hi, Sharon.
Hello.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Sam. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I understand that you and the volunteers from Fair Vote Canada are going to have a very busy weekend at the Ontario Liberal Convention. What are you hoping to accomplish?
We are hoping to have a busy weekend. That's right, Sam. Well, we know that this exact moment in time, the Liberals are rebuilding. They're looking for new leadership. And we felt that it would be a good time to reach out to them to talk about the need for electoral reform provincially and a pathway to actually maybe realize electoral reform by striking a citizens' assembly. So there's about 20 of us. We're going to be there sort of over the 2 days. We'll be standing outside of the convention center. We wouldn't be allowed in, but we're hoping to just reach out to Liberal members and some of the leadership as they go by and engage them in a conversation. We have really good literature to hand out to them to look at recent electoral results, which we know that our electoral system distorts outcomes, and certainly the Liberals have been last two elections have really run into that. When you look at the NDP and the Liberals basically got the same percentage of the popular vote. NDP 23.7, Liberals 23.8, but the NDP got 31 seats and the Liberals got 8 seats. And that's the kind of distortion that First Past the Post sets up. And they're going to be very aware of that. So we thought this would be a good time to talk to them about change and much needed change.
Because I think you've got a really interesting point, Sharon, because when, of course, that June 2nd election happened and Doug Ford obviously won a majority, many people sort of analyzed that and said, the way that, of course, a premier or the leader of a party is going to come out and say, Ontario clearly voted, and they're going to use all that kind of language. But when you do the analysis, really it didn't sort of add up to all Ontarians looking for a Ford government.
Well, that's really true, Sam, and that's the foundational issue with First Past the Post. The numbers just don't substantiate those kinds of claims that any sitting government probably would make. I mean, we know that Doug Ford's government garnered 17.7% of all of the electorate. So everyone who was eligible to vote, that 17.7%. That 17.7% translated into 40% of the votes, 67% of the seats, and 100% of the power. And I'm going to go back to that number of 17.7% because that's really important, Sam. That means that actually 82% of us didn't vote for that party and that government, which means that the legislation, the policy that they're going to be introducing doesn't actually reflect the kind of policy that most Ontarians want. It only reflects the interests of those 17.7% of the electorate that actually does support Doug Ford and his government.
Whenever we cover... Sorry, go ahead. Finish your point.
I was just going to say, and that's a really profound flaw in our electoral system. It doesn't have to be that way because we know that 85 other countries OECD countries around the world use some form of proportional representation, which is what Fair Vote, exists to advance, to educate Canadians and work with politicians to introduce some level or kind of PR. So we know it doesn't have to be this way. We know there are other options, although Canada is the only country in the world that uses first past the post for all three levels of government.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting.
And we're really starting to see, I think, the real truly negative effects of that in, really low voter turnout and drastic policy swings. We can see that in just exactly what the Ford government did when they came to power. One of the very first things that they did, and this may seem like a small thing, but it's also a very real thing, Sam. They took out all the electric charging stations at GO stations in Ontario. Mm-hmm. The really big thing they've done that a lot of people are very upset about, of course, is backtracking on that promise to keep the Greenbelt. Now, right. I'm not just ragging on conservatives here. All parties do this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
that's
really
something we can avoid.
Well, and it was interesting as well, Sharon, to be honest with you, is the strong mayor powers was another piece. Like, where did that come from, right?
Absolutely. And as someone who, works in the area of political literacy, civics literacy, and democracy, that was a very shocking move. Mm-hmm. Because if you recall, in his first government, reduced the size of city council right in the middle of a municipal election. This is a highly anti-democratic policy. And then to sort of add to that, further that, they, give the strong mayors powers. But it doesn't have to be this way. And this is our big message to Liberals. We can change it. We can make it better. And we can give proper democratic rights to 100, well, not 100%, because no electoral system is perfect, but right now most of us are shut out of this government, and it really doesn't need to be this way. We can look at alternatives to first past the post.
Sharon, thank you so much for your time today, and looking forward to the busy weekend ahead.
Thank you so much, Sam. Really appreciate your time today.
My pleasure. Sharon Somerville joining us from Fair Vote Canada. When we come back, well, Jason White is going to be here, our veteran news anchor here at City News. We're going to talk about the news of the day. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll introduce you to Ability Dogs Canada. They are doing some amazing work right here in our community and, of course, across the country. And they have some wonderful service dogs. We'll find out about some of the great success stories with those service dogs, how they help people in our community, and more importantly, how you can help them, whether it be fostering or in many other ways. All that and more on Friday's Daytime.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, Jason White is here. He is, of course, our veteran news anchor, afternoon anchor, managing editor at City News. We couldn't do it without you, Jason White.
Oh, you compliment too much.
I'm very grateful that you're here, Jason White, of course, talking about all of the news of the day. It's been a busy week.
Been a good news week. In terms of the amount of news, there's news for people like me to talk about and to cover. That's what I mean by it's good. It's not all good news, but it's a good amount of news.
And let's talk about some really heartbreaking news out of Orleans. I think, when we arrived, certainly for myself on Monday, February the 13th, and heard about the explosion that had happened in Orleans and the amount of families. And at that point, we didn't know any injuries or potential fatalities. I mean, it was a very, very challenging time. Our news team, of course, was on site. They were there covering that story. To learn this week, Jason, that there has been somebody charged with arson and a number of other sort of charges was absolutely devastating to hear.
I think that it's a different layer to the story, and I will say this: I've learned I'm not as cynical and grizzled as I thought I might be, because I expected, just as someone who lives in the city, I figured negligence. Someone forgot to do something. Someone was cutting corners, something like that. Not deliberately setting out to cause this to happen. So to hear that definitely took me by surprise. I would not have put money on that.
I wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, is because I live in a construction site. My new home, the homes right behind us are all being built, and there's those propane tanks that are put inside the houses so that, everything can be dried out. And I've often, prior to this explosion, thought to myself, oh my heavens, that would be devastating to see something tragic happen, a workplace accident. And you think about, all the challenges we've seen in different workplace accidents over the years.
Yeah.
And so that was my first thought as well.
Definitely hits close to home. I mean, as someone who's never bought a new build, but when you buy a new build, often you're living in an active construction zone for several weeks, if not months after, and all of that around.
I have to say, I thought Catherine Kitts, the counselor for that area, she was on site within, a couple of hours of it happening. She kept us certainly informed here. Didn't get in the way either in terms of trying to sort of speculate or anything like that. I thought she did a fantastic job, and she's no stranger, unfortunately, to crisis. We've seen her stepping up during the Dureco as well.
Yep, and that's the job. I mean, in that sort of situation, people are looking for information. Friends of mine who live near the explosion site, their whole house shook. One of them nearly fell out of his chair, and they turned on City News. They're hungry, like, what just happened? Our whole house shook. And a lot of people that morning, you want information, and your elected representatives, like them or not, whether you voted for them or not, that is the job. And that's part of their role, is to be there and to, be that conduit for information to help people.
Absolutely. No, it was very, very helpful for sure. And this week, of course, we know that budget was finally passed. It felt like the budget that was never going to end. But I think, maybe it's just my perception of it. I found this year there was a lot more sort of being asked of us as residents in terms of consultation. Every single councillor had something in their ward, whether it be virtually or in person. They were at malls together. A couple of councillors I know were in Place Orleans together, asking for people to weigh in on the budget. So it was finally passed. I think it's just, and I said this to Mayor Mark Sutcliffe yesterday, is that we're hearing a lot about, it's kind of boring at City Hall now. It's a bit calm at City Hall. But I think that's a good thing with a budget that, this is a mayoral candidate that said he was going to stick to 2.5. He stuck to 2.5, so there was no drama drama there. A bit of drama around the Ottawa Police Services budget, though.
As there often is these days. Yeah. I mean, think about it. This is the first budget in the term. So some of them are still kind of getting their feet under them. This is not like typically in a 4-year term, the first budget, you're just working to make sure the money's still going out the door, has been my experience. So the more contentious debates and who do we want to be and what do we want to do, those sorts of big picture visioning exercises would typically happen later in the term, I think. A little bit more contention, you're right, than is, I think, typical in a first year budget, whereas previous terms that I've covered, not just here, but other cities, it's okay, just get the budget done and we'll kind of do pretty much the same as we did last year, not too different. And then the real changes start to come in year 2 and 3. But Ottawa Police, a lot of people have very strong opinions about what that should look like and how that job should be done.
For sure. And we heard different, we spoke with various people that shared really the percentage of the budget that they even have to work with that isn't that standard cost, such as labor and all of the maintenance of equipment and the maintenance of buildings and all of those types of things. There's actually a very small percentage that has any wiggle room at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems to be the similar approaches we saw during Watson. If you're adding something in, well, then we have to take something away. It has to balance it. Yeah, there really isn't a lot of room to finagle in the budget. I mean, there is some, obviously, because you run on a platform, you say, this is what I would like to accomplish, and you need to have a way to get that done. Otherwise, people are going to be disappointed. Sure. But yeah, no, you are right. It's a very tight budget, and I think in this year, perhaps a little more tight than we've seen before.
And I think we always watch as well in terms of the budget, what's happening with snow clearing. Lots of complaints this year. The snowbanks are too high. I can't get down the street. People worry about emergency vehicles being able to get down streets as well. So I know that that's been a big part of the budget discussions as well, as have we funded that properly?
Yeah, and there is more money, but it's more to keep up with the growing city and all of the new streets that we're adding in all of these new subdivisions and new builds. So it's not really the extra money that's there. Yes, we've increased funding, but it's not really about increasing the level of service. And so I think, there are definitely people who would like to see a little bit of improvement there in terms of the service. This winter has been challenging, but it seems in different ways, but it seems every winter we hear, this has been a challenging winter. Well, yeah, but so was last winter.
Exactly.
But it was challenging in a different way.
I know, it's so funny.
So, we get a lot of snow in a short period of time, but yeah, there is money there, more money there, but it's more about just keeping pace with growth.
It's like you read my mind, because I was just about to say to you, by the way, Jason, there's more snow on the way. We're always like, what? Snow? What do you mean?
Yeah, I think I'll be hibernating tomorrow. Thank goodness it's a Saturday. I know not everybody has Saturday off. Some people still have to work and will still have to be out in this tomorrow morning.
For sure.
I was just looking at the warnings and the predictions. I mean, if you look at a map of southern Ontario and eastern Ontario, it's, basically this giant stripe of red from southwestern Ontario along the north shore of Lake Ontario and along the Seaway, and that's where all the warnings are. So it's a snowfall warning down toward Merrickville, Wolford, Kemptville, Brockville, Gananoque area, and that Environment Canada says 15 to 20 centimeters, whereas we're looking at more 10 to 15 up in the Ottawa area, and along the Ottawa River. So, snow. We're getting off a little bit easy, but still snow. Gross.
1 week from now, I will be on a plane. And I'm heading to Turks and Caicos.
Take me with you.
I would love to. You're a hoot. I'd love to vacation with you. The newsroom, what would they do without you, though? They would be lost.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get out of Dodge, as they say.
Yeah.
And experience a bit of that vitamin C and D.
Usually the third week of February, I'm ready to give up my citizenship because of winter and winter in Ottawa. This winter, I will say, has not been as harsh.
Right.
So I'm a little less desperate to get out of the country, as it were.
Absolutely. So I mentioned that I had just moved.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a house 2.5 years ago, finally got into it in December. And of course I was packing, doing all of that stuff. And I have some memories from my dad, his watch and his special pen and, his wedding ring and all of those things. And of course, when I went to pack them, I said there was a friend of mine, Taylor, helping, and my daughter, I said, this is the most important box.
Yep.
So packed it all up, taped it all up, and I have been looking for this box since December the 3rd. and I could not find it. I was having a heart attack that I had lost my father's things, and I was absolutely beside myself. So last night, you would have laughed. So we've got about 60 boxes left to unpack, various things. I pulled all of these boxes out last night, and I opened every single one of them. I was determined to find this before I went on vacation. It was just playing on my mind.
Yeah.
And I opened up this box, and I saw it, and of course the tears, you know, I'm a bit of a softie. Relief, absolutely relief that I hadn't misplaced these things.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to anybody that is moving, if you have anything that you absolutely love and treasure, do not just put it into a box, because what had happened was we were using another box, like boxes we'd already unpacked. So it said Avery's bathroom on it.
Oh.
So I thought it was stuff from Avery's bathroom in there.
Yep.
Anyway, I just had to share that, a bit of a public service announcement today.
I'm big on labels when I move, but my mistake has been going to the dollar store and buying the stick-on labels, thinking I'll peel them off and then a friend can reuse these boxes. Well, sometimes the labels peel off in the moving truck.
Right.
And then and it's like, I don't know, I have 6 boxes, I don't know what they are.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Was your dad a prankster? Like maybe he was helping?
Okay, no. So that's what I said. I said, this is my dad going, hey kid, you know, you're gonna think about this. You're not gonna forget. He was a prankster, had the best sense of humor.
Yeah.
Jason, thanks so much for spending time with us. Jason White is our afternoon anchor, managing editor at City News, and I just don't know what we would do without him. Stay with us. We're getting ready for our big lunch. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 12 o'clock. Good afternoon on this Friday, the 3rd of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, some sunshine and -7. Here's what's making news right now. If you have a driveway or sidewalk you have to clear, get those shovels and snow blowers ready. A winter wallop is on the way. But the good news about this latest whack of winter weather is it will arrive later tonight, leaving the commute home generally unscathed. Ottawa expected to receive about 5 to 15 centimeters tonight, and 10 to 20 for Smiths Falls once the system finally moves through the region. City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi says for those needing to get around tomorrow morning, it will have a tricky time navigating the roads.
Snow will have been heavy and steady from about midnight tonight. So tomorrow morning is going to be really snow covered. The crews will have a lot of snow to certainly clean up.
Again, the brunt of the snowfall will be overnight with an additional 5 centimeters tomorrow, and then sunshine returns on Sunday with a high of 3. Contract talks between Ontario nurses and the province have broken down. Here's City News reporter Chris Curries with the latest.
The Ontario Nurses Association represents 68,000 registered nurses in Ontario and 18,000 nursing affiliates. And provincial president Bernie Robinson says the two sides about 6% apart.
Mediation was not successful.
Okay.
It broke off last evening. There has been no negotiated settlement reached. And we are heading to arbitration in early May.
Of which she's frustrated that once again their contractual fate in the hands of an arbitrator, and also frustrated that this is now the norm for them. She says the response to their demands disappointing, and they don't solve staffing or wage issues, and it does not improve patient care. Chris Curry, City News.
City News time 12:02. Ontario's Minister of Labour says the province is expanding workplace coverage of cancers for firefighters. Monty McNaughton says pancreatic and thyroid cancers will now be presumed to be work-related, which he says will allow firefighters to speed up their workplace safety and insurance board claims. McNaughton says the changes will be retroactive to 1960 in order to cover both active and retired firefighters. The province says upwards of 60 firefighters die every year from cancer across the country. Dangerous moments for a STO driver last night. The empty bus was driving and was shot at near the intersection of Mont-Bleu and Cité des Jeunes. The driver heard loud noises, stopped the bus to inspect it. He didn't find any damage at the time, but later at the garage, police were called in, and upon further inspection, they discovered damage caused by bullets. Investigators, crime scene technician went to the area to analyze the scene. No injuries, no one on board the bus at the time. If you have any information, you're asked to contact Gatineau Police. And Buckingham Palace announcing Charles and Camilla will embark on their first state visit as king and queen consort later this month. The two will head to France March 26th, visiting Paris before making their way to Germany on March 29th, with stops in Berlin and Hamburg. The British government reportedly requested the visit in an effort to cement its relationship with the UK's closest neighbours. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. It is the lunchtime. We always invite a couple people to have lunch with us and talk about those big news stories of the day. We invited some counselors today. Councillor Laura Dudash joins us from Orleans West Innis. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for having lunch with us. We've invited Sean Devine as well, City Councillor for Knoxdale Maryville. How are you, Sean?
I'm good, but I don't think I'll be having lunch. Otherwise, I'll be talking with my mouth full.
Exactly. Well, we're going to feast on the top news stories of the day. So one of them, of course, big story today, Sean, is the impact of Nordstrom's closing their doors, not only in, of course, the Rideau Centre, but train yards. What are the impacts when you hear businesses like this closing from a city councillor's perspective?
Yeah, that was one heck of a news story yesterday, and I it caught my attention. I put out a thread on Twitter, and it looked like it really started a conversation. And I think to answer your question, like, what are the impacts of these businesses closing? Well, look, first and foremost, obviously, it's an impact to the employees at Nordstrom's at both of our Ottawa facilities, and my heart goes out to those employees. It's also, it's a financial impact to the owner of the property, to CF, to Cadillac Fairmount, because they're going to be without their anchor retailer. I'm not so much concerned about the impact on shopping customers, because I think what the closure is showing is that the market for anchor retail department stores is diminishing. But myself personally, rather than only concentrate on the impact, the negative impact of this closure, I do see it as an opportunity. We'll see what comes out of this shifting landscape. I think that the Twitter thread I put out there sure showed that there's an appetite for what can we do as a city, or what can the private sector do when the city offers up these kinds of opportunities.
It certainly impacts the employees. I was thinking about them as well, Sean. Laura, what are your thoughts on the closure of Nordstrom's?
Well, it's very disappointing. It's disappointing to see that it couldn't make hair, but this isn't the first time that we've seen an American chain of some sort, whether it's retail or otherwise. I'll give Target as an example, try out the Canadian market and just not get it. They don't understand the Canadian market. They struggled as a result, had supply chain issues. And we know that it's not just the 2 locations in Ottawa. We know that it's across Canada. So, I'm actually looking at this from the perspective of, it would be wonderful to see another anchor in that exact location that is a Canadian business. We've had a lot of success and benefits that we see coming out of entities like Simon's, which is at the other end of the mall, that's absolutely phenomenal and has been given space through Catalog Fairview to have its own section at the mall. So I have hopes that there will be opportunities maybe with a Canadian retailer to kind of take over the space. I'd also point out there's international groups like H&M, Zara, that have come forward and been successful. So they get the market. It's a matter of kind of understanding we as Canadians as shoppers and consumers.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's natural, Sean. We all look back and we think, oh, what about Eaton's? And, when we think back to the Bay and Simpson Sears and all of the different stores that have been around for decades, it makes us a little bit nostalgic, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, sure. And I mean, and to echo what my colleague was saying, if the end byproduct of this is that a Canadian retailer goes in and fills that hall and brings customers that are connected to that part of the Canadian shopping experience and our Canadian narrative, that would be fantastic. But I also sense that the electronic commerce industry continues to have a massive impact on retail. So whatever outcome comes of this, whether it's a revisioning of how that space can be used, or if a signature Canadian retailer can come in and fill that gap, I certainly am eager for something to come of it. I don't want there to be a vacuum for too long. That's for sure.
For sure, absolutely, because we've we want to keep that Rideau Centre hustling and bustling, and of course
Absolutely.
The train yard's a very important area as well. Councillor Dudas, let me ask you this: what are the top 3 issues that people reach out? Like, if your staff is sort of looking at the data, is it potholes and garbage issues? What's happening in your ward?
I'd say at the moment, this is a great question, because sometimes there's a cycle, right? A seasonal cycle, or there's something maybe in the news. I'd say at the moment, and probably for the last several weeks, it's been snow, winter, weather, snow, and just all the implications of that. And I think part of that really has been that we've seen, I think it's like 280 centimeters of snow as of February 28th. It's the 3rd highest snowfall for this time of year on record. And with that comes the accumulation. I think we were at, 35 freeze-thaw cycles, and that was about a week or so ago. So now that means the potholes, and staff have been trying to go fill those potholes, but then we get another snowfall, so they can't complete the job. So for us right now in my office, we're just hearing nonstop about, ice buildup, winter weather, the accumulation of the snow banks and sight lines and windrows. So I have to say, as much as I love winter, and winter sports enthusiast, bring on spring. I'm ready for it.
Me too. How about you, Councillor Devine?
It's so funny. My colleague, Councillor Dudas, has, more experience in the cyclical nature of what we hear from residents than I do. But I didn't even know what the word windrow was until a few months ago. And I remember seeing a bunch of emails saying, "What are you going to do about my windows? What are you going to do about my windows?" I was like, "I'm not going to do anything about your windows." But then I learned that, yes, Councillor Dudas is right. Right now, the big issue is snow removal. Mm-hmm. But because, my more established, experienced colleagues have told me that these things are cyclical, what is definitely going to be coming up soon is I'm going to be hearing, like Laura said, about potholes. And that kind of speaks to, in my ward, like when you ask me what are the 3 main issues, potholes, when I hear a lot of complaints about potholes, which I surely will very soon, it's really a comment just about, the state of our infrastructure in our city. So, the data that I've collected isn't just from, my short 3 months of being a councillor, but also what I heard during the campaign. And in Ward 9, it was pretty clear from a data collection point of view. The three big issues for us were the state of local infrastructure, concerns about transit, about whether you're a transit rider or not. There was concern about transit, and the most common issue in Ward 9 was, just the concern about speeding and road safety. And that issue for me is I hope going to be one of the focuses of my term, trying to improve, how our streets are designed for residents so that we can improve road safety for residents.
Mm-hmm. And I know, I reached out to my councillor over the years for various things. One of them, Councillor Dudas, that was always very important to me was the registration, trying to register my daughter for swim lessons. It felt like Survivor. But that's all changed, Councillor, right?
Absolutely. It's funny because Survivor, Hunger Games, I've heard many references to that experience. I've experienced it too because I've got young kids, and it has changed. So the city recently, for the last registration period, they launched a new technology. It certainly has worked better. I know there was a couple of hiccups on the first evening, and they've kind of worked through that. I am going to caution everyone, it is still a work in progress. They're still trying to work through, slight technical hiccups, issues, but it is definitely improved the system. The only dilemma is, and I always like to point this out to people, is if there's only 5 spots in the program, if we find out that we're on a waiting list a little bit quicker than we used to, it's still going to only be 5 spots. So, the registration system is definitely a good news story. I'm so happy to see that we've progressed to this level. One of the things I really am looking forward to tackling is retaining our camp and our lifeguard staff, recruiting new ones, making sure we're staffed up and ready so that not only do we have the good registration and technology to start the process of being involved in a city program, but that we can also increase and expand upon the offerings that we have for residents. So I'm seeing it kind of from a holistic approach, but yes, I will say it has made that registration night a little less stressful.
For sure. I think that was two of the biggest surprises as a parent, how hard it was going to register for swim and how wet I would get even though I was never in the water when my kid took swim lessons. We're having lunch today with City Councillor Orleans West and Innes Ward with Laura Dudas and of course Sean Devine representing the ward of Knoxdale Maryville. We've got lots to talk about on lunch today. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi there, this is Meg from Fit Over 50. In our next workout, we're going to be using weights for a full body workout. You can expect both beginner and advanced options. See you then.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
Jean-Marie! Fire! The neighbor's farm is on fire. It's almost to the road. It's heading for us.
Help me get the animals out of the barn.
The fire's getting closer.
I'm on the horse.
The house is burning.
Get out to the river. Get up.
Can't leave everything. Careful. Don't fall.
Come on. We have to hurry.
Hurry. There's the river. We're going to make it. I can't swim.
Yes, you can.
Hurry. Hurry.
You must get in.
I can't.
Watch out for Spark.
His hair's on fire.
Keep their hair wet.
In May 1870, fires raged along the Saguenay River for more than 150 kilometers, destroying land and lives. One family survived by dousing themselves all night against the searing heat. One family among the thousands whose resourcefulness and courage shaped the character of this land.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. Into the deep unknown. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's lunchtime, everybody. We're feasting on those top news stories of the day with City Councillor from Knoxdale-Maryville Ward, Sean Devine, and he is joined by his colleague Laura Dudas, City Councillor for Orleans West Innes. Let's talk a little bit about affordable housing, Councillor Devine. We know that, if you were to stop anybody on the street and say, is affordable housing obviously important to you, everybody would respond yes. But we're seeing some challenges in the Orleans area trying to build about 85 units or so, about 25 of those being affordable housing. How challenging is it to take some of the land that's being offered and really try to integrate that into communities? Is it difficult?
Yes, but these things are always difficult. And just in the way you were establishing the question there, I very much appreciate, and we all hear this, that when we speak to the average person, in our city, and we ask them, is affordable housing important to you? They're going to say, yes, of course it is. And then when we say, well, how about if we bring that affordable housing right to your neighborhood, you're going to see in their eyes, you're going to see a moment of pause. Some people will say, bring it on. Some people will say, well, what about the impact? And I understand that that's part of human nature. And as much as we are talking about the project that just happened in Orleans, I don't think it's fair to single out Orleans as the only community that expresses these kinds of concerns. I'll admit I'm frustrated by what's happened, but I don't think it's fair to single out Orleans. I know that these same conversations about traffic and parking have happened in my ward, and I hope to be able to manage these kind of conversations when they come to my table for the sake of trying to get more affordable housing in place. I fully recognize that communities are apprehensive to change that comes to their communities from development, and what happens then, there's an interesting dynamic for us as councillors, because to a certain extent, our role as councillor is to serve the interests of our residents, but also our role as councillor is to serve not only the interests of our city as a whole, but our role of councillor is also to serve the interests of residents who might want to move into our communities, who aren't yet our constituents, but who might want to get there. It's really a difficult conversation to navigate when we're choosing between the right to housing and the need for people to have, places where they can park their vehicles. I'm just hoping that we can shift the dialogue a little bit more towards the imperative need for housing and just a little bit less towards, concerns about parking. Eventually, we have to talk more about housing than about parking. I respect the conversation that's happening right now, but I do want to push the needle.
And earlier today, we spoke with Brandon Bay from Make Housing Affordable. Here's what he had to say about the Orleans situation.
61 of the 81 units are already going to have parking, and so that's a spot for every market rate unit and 5 of the affordable units. And people living in affordable housing often can't afford cars. That's a very expensive thing to do. And there are a lot of people in the city that would like to live without a car, and so this could be a great place for them to be. But we're insisting that parking is a big issue, and we need to probably cut back on some housing to do it. And the delays, to go back and revisit this are probably going to end up costing us the net zero portion of this development because they won't have the funds, because the delays and the probable appeals that they'll have to go through will hold it back.
What are your thoughts on that, Councillor Dudas?
I am very glad we're talking about this today because I think that there's a lot of confusion about this file. The fact is that residents of Orleans and the councillors that represent them, we all want affordable housing. This project itself, and I know that myself and my colleagues, we all spoke very clearly about this, is still going through the process as simultaneous to them continuing to have conversations about parking and other matters. The petition that was signed by over 850 residents really did focus more on, having a conversation about overlapping ripple effects based on parking on the street in front of the park and things like that. But what I'll point out is what this all stems from is the change in provincial legislation. So historically, the matter of parking, about how many trees would be retained, about construction issues, things like that, that would all be dealt with through the site plan application process. But recently, as we all know, the province has changed several key pieces of planning legislation, which mean that city staff and city council don't have the same oversight that we used to. City councillors don't have the same authority to make any of those changes or have any kind of community input actually take influence over the decision. So the only way for us to do it now, and my new colleagues will find this as we go, the only way to do this is through zoning. And so when we have those conversations, it won't be the behind-the-scenes kind of conversations about site plan. It's going to be at planning committee. So we're going to see more of these conversations. It's actually very different from talking about whether it's a development with at-market rate or affordable housing. It's literally just about the logistics of how the development, regardless of what it might be, fits on the property, will now be more of a conversation at committee because the province has stripped us of the ability to have the conversation in a real and feasible way with not only the developer but the community at large. So I would say that this project is continuing to proceed. What happened there is that we asked staff to work in conjunction with the developer to see that if they could offset or mitigate some of the concerns of the community before they actually put a shovel in the ground, because whatever gets built there will end up influencing the community, but also the people that live there forever. And once it's built, we can't go back in time and fix it. So I'd rather us buy, a couple weeks of conversation while they're also going through their site plan process to get the project right so that we don't have to go back in 10, 20 years and say this was all wrong and we're now realizing the implications.
So let me ask you, Councillor Dudas, when you're explaining all of that, my understanding was it was going to be a lot longer than a couple of weeks. So you're thinking just a couple of weeks delayed.
So the motion itself spoke to the city staff, going back to the developer, and having a conversation about mitigating options. So that could mean a car share. It could mean increasing bike parking. And one of the options, too, was teaming up with OC Transpo and providing potentially bus passes and things like that. One of the other aspects was at least informing the new residents that move into the new development that they have limitations on parking, so that they're not coming in blind thinking that they can move in with one car and then eventually buy more. Because one of the pieces that I found really oddly out of place at committee was that people were saying that because people moving in there, they'll just assume that they won't buy another car at some point in their lives. Well, people's lives change, their circumstances change. They might have teenagers that grow up and get cars. So it's a good conversation to have before shovels go in the ground. And I'm also, sorry, I'm taking a lot of your time, but I also want to point out, City Council wants affordable housing. And at the final planning committee, just before the last term of council, we actually approved 3,700 units in one committee alone of affordable housing. So these projects are coming fast and furious. We're going to see more of them. But these little logistical items that need ironing out, we're also going to hear of them more at the zoning conversation piece of the process than we ever have before because of this change in provincial legislation.
Very helpful. Thank you so much, Councillor Dudas, for sharing that. Here on Lunch with Sam on City News, we like to end on a bit of a fun note, Councillor Devine. So I thought today we talk about our Ottawa Senators. Do you have any superstitions regarding the Sens streak and the bid for that wild card spot?
Well, the first rule of Fight Club is that we don't talk about Fight Club, right? So,
right.
To a certain extent, just talking about it. Well, here's for one thing, I mean, I think it's thrilling. I saw, we won two back-to-back games against the Red Wings decisively, and then to see, again, another decisive come-from-behind win against the Rangers, that was quite exciting. I know that for Christmas, I got a fantastic Christmas gift. I got a Sens jersey, and on the back of it, my wife has emblazoned counselor instead of my name, and then the number 9, because I'm counselor for Ward 9. Aww. And as much as I want to wear it, my superstition is, I don't know if I should take it out of the closet, because it's still in the closet and we're doing well.
Right.
But it's thrilling. I think the entire city would love nothing more than a first round, a long playoff. It's exciting.
It is very exciting. Councillor Dudas, how are you feeling about our Ottawa Senators?
I'm not superstitious by nature, but at this point, I'm willing to do not change my socks. I'm getting ready to grow my playoff beard. No, I'm just kidding. I really would love to see them go all the way, not just with the wild card and winning that, moving to the playoffs. It would be so wonderful to shut down Elgin Street again, like we did, in the past when they made it to the playoffs, and have that parade for them. So, I agree with my colleague. I don't want to talk about it too much. I've got that nervous anticipation. If you talk about it, dwell on it too much, it might not happen. But we have an excellent team. We've got an amazing group of fans behind them. So I'm fingers crossed, salt over shoulder. Let's go all the way.
I'm exactly where you are, Councillor Dudas, and Councillor Devine. Let's just talk very softly about it. Thank you so much for spending time with us on this fantastic Friday lunch with Councillor Laura Dudas, Councillor Sean Devine joining us here. We're heading into the OBJ Business Lunch. Stay with us, everybody, on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Justice.
And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions.
That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef. With the cost of food constantly on the rise, we can't afford to let good food go to waste. I'll show you how to whip up a tasty and healthy meal with on sale and discounted items, which will save you a few bucks as well.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's 12:30. Good afternoon on this Friday, the 3rd of March. I'm Mark Day right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls under weather statements and snowfall warnings, and -5 under sunshine. Here's what's making news right now. Ontario Nurses Association says contract talks with the Ontario Hospital Association have broken down. The two sides will now head to arbitration in early May. The nurses union and the hospitals began mediation on Wednesday. Nurses and other healthcare workers held a mass rally and protest downtown yesterday, demanding better staffing and wages, and those protests will continue. By all accounts, tonight's winter storm is going to be short but intense at times. It is a system coming from Texas, and it has a large swath of southern and eastern Ontario under special weather statements and winter storm warnings. Environment Canada calling for up to 10 to 15 centimeters for Ottawa and the Valley in western Quebec. But areas like Smiths Falls into Kingston along the 401 could see up to 25 centimeters. The storm expected to start after the evening commute, and the brunt of it will be felt overnight. And Ontario Liberals are gathering this weekend in Hamilton, setting the stage for a leadership race. The party's annual general meeting set to be the largest in 2 decades, with 1,500 people expected to attend. Members will pick a party executive, vote on several constitutional amendments, including whether to stick with delegated conventions or move to a form of direct voting for the leader. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Business Lunch.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It is the OBJ Business Lunch. We're so happy that you're here. We talk about all things business. We wanted to spend some time out in the Valley today with Peter Hamer. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. Peter is the executive director of the Ottawa Valley Family Health Team. Keep him busy out there, Peter.
Yes, it has been very busy.
That's great, because you've got some good news to share today. And I think when it comes to healthcare, you know, when news, special news and good news comes across to us, we want to share it with our listeners. So give us a sense of what's happening with this new family health facility.
Thanks for the opportunity to share it, because you're right. It's few and far between that we have good news stories, and this one certainly is. So the Ottawa Valley Family Health Team is currently located in Almont in Mississippi Mills, about 30 minutes outside of the west of Ottawa. And we applied to the provincial government to expand to support the services, the healthcare services in Carleton Place and Beckwith. So the ministry has provided us with the funds to do that, and we're spearheading the creation of the Carleton Place Regional Health Hub, which will bring all 14 family physicians together under one roof, along with massage therapy, physiotherapy, diagnostic imaging, pharmacy, and other health service providers. So we did our public launch yesterday at 4 o'clock. Both the Beckwith Township representatives and the Carleton Place representatives were there. It was an exciting day for sure.
Well, that's wonderful. And, you know, when you're describing family doctors and massage therapy and pharmacy and all of those things in one location, I was listening to you thinking, why isn't everything like that? It sounds like it makes so much sense, right?
It does make so much sense. And, and I ask myself the same question. We all should be providing, primary care and all of the support services in one location. It makes it much easier for patients. And I think it makes it easier for the physicians as well as all the ancillary health services, combining and working together to provide, good service and good outcomes for patients.
Peter, when we hear that there's 1 million Ontarians without a family doctor, it's sort of hard to get your mind wrapped around that number, because that's the number of people that live in the capital, for instance. Yeah. We know 14 million people live in the province. But when you think about the impact of not having a family doctor, particularly through this pandemic, I don't know what we would have done if we wouldn't have had the relationship with our doctor, who I've had since I was maybe 25 years old, right? I mean, that relationship you build with the doctor, they get to know you, and then the healthcare doesn't seem so daunting. It feels like just a natural part of your life. But if you're always hunting for a doctor and trying to find that relationship, it's really challenging for families.
You're 100% right, Sam. The relationship that you develop with your family physician is a really important one. And when you do think about the huge numbers of people that don't have access to primary care, that really destabilizes the healthcare system, because then they end up going to walk-in clinics if there are any, and so the continuity of care is not great, or the emergency department, which is completely the most inappropriate place to go for prescription renewals, but it's the last stop, and in many cases it's the only option that people have. But it's certainly not the best place for people to end up. So we're hoping to be able to attract new physicians to this model, because it is the model that doctors want to work in now.
And when you think about the community of Carleton Place, it's one of the communities that's booming, especially during this pandemic. I was out there the other day and noticed a lot of the housing developments. So it feels like this is almost keeping up with the times in terms of people wanting to live maybe outside of Ottawa, but have the services in their very own community.
Yes, and Carleton Place is actually the fastest growing town in Canada right now. So the developments keep coming, and there are only 14 family physicians that are providing clinical primary care to the residents. And that's not enough. We still have thousands of people that are unattached and don't have access. So it is 15 minutes outside of the west end of Ottawa. It's quick and easy to get there, and I feel quite confident that we'll be able to bring on new family physicians that will be able to provide care to those people who don't have family doctors.
Absolutely. What has the pandemic been like for you, Peter, as the executive director of the Ottawa Valley Health Team? I know we spoke at one point during the pandemic. I think it was early on in the pandemic. But what was it like? How stressful was that time?
I've been doing this for a few decades now, and it was probably the most stressful. Not probably, it was absolutely the most stressful time for healthcare. I've seen burnout from my physicians that work here. I've seen burnout from the administrative or support staff, our nurses. It's hard. It's been obviously very difficult for people in the community that don't necessarily understand how to access primary care. It really, I'm glad we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel now. It's still not great, but it's been a really significant challenge.
Give us a sense of when this new facility will be up and running, Peter, for people to be able to get services at.
So the shovels will go in the ground, I'm hoping, in the fall of this calendar year, and we're hoping to be cutting a ribbon and getting the keys in September of 2024.
I love hearing that. That's fantastic. And to all the people at the Ottawa Valley Family Health Team, I know it's been, as you mentioned, such a stressful time, but this sounds like you're all moving in the right direction, and congratulations. I know it takes a lot to even get to the time where we can even talk about it today, so congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to share this with your listeners.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Peter Hamer joining us today, Executive Director of the Ottawa Valley Health Team. Some good news for Carleton Place there, and good news for people that are looking for those family doctors. It's the OBJ Business Lunch. We talk about all things business. Now, someone that does business right in this city is the one and only Chef Joe Thutungal. He's going to join us after this time, talk about lots of different subjects, of course. He is from Coconut Lagoon. He's from Thali. He is not only an incredible chef, but he is an incredible person. Get to know Joe when we come back on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll introduce you to Ability Dogs Canada. They are doing some amazing work right here in our community and, of course, across the country. And they have some wonderful service dogs. We'll find out about some of the great success stories with those service dogs, how they help people in our community, and more importantly, how you can help them, whether it be fostering or in many other ways. All that and more on Friday's Daytime.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for spending time with us during the OBJ Business Lunch on City News. We've partnered with the Ottawa Business Journal, and we're so excited to bring you those important business stories. And the newsmaker of the year for the OBJ was Chef Joe Thatungle, and he joins me now. Hi, Chef.
Hello. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. I'm catching you during lunch. I'm sure you're busy, Chef.
It is busy, but I take any time for you.
Oh, you're very sweet. You're very sweet.
Thank you.
We know that obviously tourism is such a big part of Ottawa, and the new space you have. I've enjoyed Coconut Lagoon's the private event space, and it's just such a wonderful opportunity. Talk to me a little bit about the plans there, Chef.
Yeah, this space is created only because we never had a upstairs, and we wanted to create something special for our guests to have a small tasting, small business meetings, to bring a birthday party here up and a small wedding if you want. And we done all these things at Coconut Lagoon in the last 6 months. So I wanted to create a good ambience and, a beautiful space so that people can enjoy in a private setting. So that is what the upstairs rooms are for right now.
And was that a little bit of a boost as well from the government, Chef?
Yeah, yes, 100%. When we were going through with the plans and all that, I saw there is, the worst hit industry during the pandemic was what the restaurants and tourism. And, I was always checking tourism websites and, looking for some things where I can pick up or learn from it. So I saw this grant application, which is a tourism relief fund. And I jumped in, and it was so easy to apply, and, I got qualified. So that is what my idea of having this second space upstairs to utilize. So that helped me to where I am right now, having the private space upstairs.
It's wonderful. And I think the location of Coconut Lagoon, I think, when I've met friends there or, and people that have never been there before, it's not a place you would regularly sort of think about a restaurant, but you've really created something very, very special there on Saint Laurent Boulevard, sort of between the Saint Laurent Shopping Centre and Montreal Road. So is that another part of this, Chef, that, bringing attention to maybe areas of the city that don't get that kind of tourism attention?
Yes, I don't want to be in Sussex all the good restaurants, and so I started very humbly at Saint Laurent Boulevard, and when we had the fire also, I had the opportunity. If I wanted to move out from that location, I would have moved out, but I thought I will stay here, make it a destination place. People drive here, and boost the Saint Laurent Boulevard and the area around it. And people from all walks of life comes and from every part of the city drive in, and they park it there and they come and enjoy a meal at Coconut Lagoon. And, that is why we want to be a purple cow and keep it aside. We don't want to be in where it is everything happening, but we need to be spread out so that east of Ottawa, we are still close to Parliament, 4.5 kilometers, so it's not a bad drive, and we are close by to all the good things.
For sure. For those that haven't had the pleasure of being at the new Coconut Lagoon and seeing that space up top, it really is a very unique space. Walk us through the numbers there, Chef, for someone that's listening, maybe looking to get the team together, or like you say, for a small wedding or for some sort of maybe birthday celebration.
Yeah, so think about it. Day after tomorrow, we're doing a tequila tasting for 24 people. We're having a master class, which is a local person from Cadadia, from Ottawa, who makes premium tequila from Mexico. So we are bringing them, and they're having a class. So you can have both rooms will hold 28 people. If you want to have a 12 people private intimate dinner, you can have that. 16 people, the maximum in one room. But altogether, if you want to do a stand-up dinner reception, we can do around 30 people upstairs.
It's such a wonderful space, and can we talk about the delicious food for a second?
Yes.
So what's happened now is when I go to Coconut Lagoon, I open up the menu and I think, okay, I know exactly what I want because I want what I had last time. And then I go there and I'm like, no, I want to try something different. So last time I was there, I had the salmon, and it was incredible. I still think about it, Chef. So talk to me a little bit about the influence of the food that you serve.
Yeah. So during the past 15 years or so, we were doing like North Indian, South Indian cuisine at Coconut Lagoon. But now, as we cleaned up the slate and we are reopened, we are more focused to the Kerala cuisine, where I come from. And we are putting out more seafood dishes. We wanted to do exclusively from Kerala, the vegetarian dishes, the mushroom from local here, but we do a nice sauce with coconut and spices from Kerala. And lobster, things like that, scallop in a nice, beautiful mango curry, which is a beautiful appetizer to start off your meal. And the focus is more towards Kerala cuisine, a little bit more on the seafood. We have a chef's table also, which you can taste different, like 6 courses in one sitting, which gives different flavors. There is two seafood dishes, 2 meat dishes, dessert and a soup to start off. So that is a good way of trying rather than, stuck with one bowl of curry and rice, This way, chef's table have a lot of variety, and it's a smaller plates, so you get different varieties in one seating. These are the things we are doing right now.
Oh, you do such a beautiful job, and I know next week is a very big week for you, and I'm so excited to be part of the big announcement in terms of your next book. Walk us through what you've done there, Chef.
Okay, so during the pandemic, we all spend a lot of time in our homes and kitchens and with our family and kids. So there we go. The idea came out when we were cooking at home with my wife and kids, and and I am in Canada for the last 25 years. So March 2023 is 25 years me being in Canada. So to commemorate my anniversary, like 25 years in beautiful Canada, I want to bring out a cookbook, which is a small plates, mostly family-oriented dishes, we make at my mom's house, my wife's house, back childhood memories. All these dishes comes into a book called My Thali. And Thali is my other second restaurant in downtown, where we serve small plates in a big platter. So that is the motivation, and that is coming out on March 7th all across Canada. The book will be available. It's published. It's co-written by my good friend and beautiful writer Anne, who worked with me with the Coconut Lagoon book also. So this is our second adventure, and I used the local photographer Chris Lalonde from the Photolux, who made beautiful pictures of my food. And it's a well-written book, and I hope everybody will enjoy.
Oh, I know we will. I know we will, Chef. And just as I say goodbye to you today, I want to say how much over the last 25 years you have brought to Canada and particularly this community. I honestly think that everyone else has 24 hours in a day and you have 48, because I don't know how you do what you do in a 24-hour day. You've been so kind to so many, Chef. Congratulations on your new book and the new initiatives.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sam. And as I say, I am a proud Indian, but a blessed Canadian. Thank you.
Beautifully said. Chef Joe Thatungle joining us today. Love chatting with the chef. And I enjoy my chats as well with the one and only Councillor Stephanie Plante. Hi, Councillor.
Hello, hello. Happy Friday.
Well, happy Friday to you. Now, I'm feeling like we're kind of on a bit of a roll here. This is the second day in a row we're talking because there's lots happening in your ward. I saw the news late yesterday about Nordstrom's closing in the Rideau Centre and, of course, in the train yards. And the very first person I thought about was you.
I hope it's a good sign.
It is a good thing because I think Stephanie, I know how impactful that will be, even just talking about it today, the impact to all the employees is the first sort of lens as well that we think about in terms of that loss. What will it mean to your ward of Rideau Vanier?
Well, the Rideau Centre is such an important part, not just to the ward, but to the whole city. It is one of the largest economic engines. It's, it's one of our largest tax bases. It's used for transit, it's used for people to get together, to shop, etc. Nordstrom's is obviously one of those big anchor stores that you really associate with the Rideau Centre, and I know the students love it, I know the residents love it. It's a bit more higher end than, say, some of the other stores in the Rideau Centre, but I heard from several moms, for example, who said that store was the best place to go breastfeeding because they had breastfeeding rooms.
Oh, wow.
And so I just really want to make sure that, the employees know that we appreciate them. A lot of them moved here specifically for this Nordstrom's to open. And so we just want to make sure that they can stay in Ottawa, their families can stay in Ottawa, and there's never a dull moment in the Rideau Centre, as you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they will have a soft landing somewhere.
I really hope so, because we want them to not skip a beat in terms of their own family finances and all of that piece. Yeah. Immediately, as soon as we hear, of course, that Nordstrom's have closed at the Rideau Centre, immediately people start thinking, oh, this would be great, and this retailer would be great, and everyone's tossing around all of these names. If you were to dream a little bit, what would you want in that area?
Well, we definitely are in need of a hardware store in the downtown area. I've had people reach out to me, tell me they want an IKEA. I've had someone suggest a Saint Hubert, which I thought was really funny because that would be probably the largest Saint Hubert
ever.
Yeah. But it really, that's the Rideau Centre. They're the big experts, right? They're going to know what's great for that space, and they're going to know what's good for retail. It's not a small spot, right? It's quite a large area. It's 2 floors. And I'm just kind of looking, as weird as that sounds, I'm kind of looking forward to the next phase. We talked about the Byward Market yesterday, the revitalization, all the changes happening there. And, I'm not sure if you know, but on Nicholas Street, the Rideau Center is going to be doing their first sort of apartment complex. They're building a large tower that's going to have 1 and 2 bedrooms. So that's going to be a big change in that space. So never, like I said, never dull moment at the Rideau Center. But again, I do just want to make sure that the employees know they can stay, that they're welcome, and that, their retail experience is so part and parcel of the whole downtown core that, there will be some sort of soft landing for them here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And even thinking about dividing up that space, the 2 different floors, like maybe it's a
right.
C-level, something like a Canadian Tire or something, and then, some other sort of retailer up above or something. I mean, right. that would be wonderful, because not only does that, the retailer want to attract tourism, but it's to make people's lives easier that live in the downtown core as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hence what I keep saying about some sort of, rental for tools or tool area or some sort of Home Depot, because we are really, really lacking that. Right now, you have to go either to a Canadian Tire on Coventry or Steerville to get some sort of help and some sort of tool store, and it's pretty far for people. And right. Spoiler, just because you live in a condo doesn't mean you don't do renovations. So,
absolutely, Stephanie, thank you so much for being so quick to respond to the request today, and for looking out for the residents of Rideau Vanier.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and have a wonderful weekend.
Always a pleasure. Stephanie Plante joining us, City Councillor for Ward 12, which is Rideau Vanier. Lots of news out of that ward this week. We know, of course, the Byward Market BIA will be dissolving, and there'll be a new sort of organization there. And then, of course, the word about Nordstrom's and its closing. We talk about all things business on the OBJ Business Lunch. It's a partnership we launched this week with the Ottawa Business Journal, and we're so thrilled to be doing it. So you'll be hearing lots of stories coming from the OBJ here on City News. Listen, it's been a very busy week here, and I have to give a big shout out, of course, to my producers, Noah and Aaron, for everything they do to keep this show rocking. But make no mistake about it, we could not do what we do if we didn't have you. So thank you so much for listening to City News. Have a safe weekend, and watch out for the snow, everybody. Stay with us on City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune